Nepal's president called on Japanese investors to boost bilateral trade, says legal reforms and Lumbini development offer opportunities for investors. Authorities heighten screening at Nepal's border areas amid Nipah virus threat. Travelers screened at key borders point to prevent spread. Election Commission to not shift poll centers despite empty villages. Seasonal migration leaves high-altitude districts vacant ahead of elections. Palestinians start entering Rafah border after 1.5 years. No goods to be allowed through in the deal, part of the US ceasefire plan. Japan retrieves ocean sediment containing rare earth elements. Discovery boosts Japan's drive for non-dependency on critical resources. And Nepal secures its first win in SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara. Defeats Bhutan 2-1 to record opening victory. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has called on Japanese business community to invest in Nepal. Addressing an interactive program in Tokyo today, he said Nepal offers a favorable and secure investment environment. President Paudel said the government is committed to providing full support to Japanese investors. The president also said Nepal has opened most sectors, including in agriculture, hydropower and tourism, to foreign investment and introduced policy and legal reforms. The president expressed confidence that stronger public-private cooperation will benefit both nations. President Paudel reached Japan yesterday in course of an official visit commemorating the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Nepal and Japan this year. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has said Nepal is accelerating its socio-economic development to achieve prosperity. Addressing a special ceremony in Tokyo, he said Nepal has introduced legal and institutional reforms to attract foreign investment. The program was organized to mark the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan diplomatic relations. The president said bilateral ties now extend beyond politics and economics to culture and people-to-people contacts. President Paudel said Lumbini, the birthplace of Gautam Buddha, serves as a bridge between the two countries and thanked Japan for its continued support in the development of Lumbini. Meanwhile, Japan's State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Hori Iwao, paid a courtesy call on President Ramchandra Paudel today. During the meeting, President Paudel described Japan as a reliable development partner for Nepal. Japanese Minister Hori assured Japan's continued support for peace, stability and democracy in Nepal. President Ramchandra Paudel reached Japan late yesterday on a 4-day official visit to commemorate the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Nepal and Japan. The Chief of Protocol of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, Japanese Ambassador to Nepal Toru Maeda, and Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of Nepal and Japan, Hariharkanta Paudel, welcomed President Paudel at Narita International Airport, Japan. During the visit, President Paudel is scheduled to pay a state call on His Majesty Emperor Naruhito and hold talks with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in Tokyo. The President is accompanied by First Lady Sabita Paudel and senior government officials. Moving on, Prime Minister Sushila Karki today addressed a meeting of the National Assembly, the first address to the upper house session. During her maiden address to the Assembly, the Prime Minister of the election government expressed confidence that the upcoming election would be conducted in an impartial, fair and calm environment on the scheduled date of March 5.
युवाको आग्रह राजनीतिक दलहरू र सम्माननीय राष्ट्रपतिज्यूसँगको छलफलका आधारमा विषम परिस्थितिमा मैले प्रधानमन्त्रीको जिम्मेवारी लिएकी हुँ। सम्माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, भदौ 23 र 24 गते जेनजी युवाहरूको नेतृत्वमा भएको विद्रोह, हाम्रा शासकहरूमा युवा आकांक्षाको व्यवस्था, मुलुकमा व्याप्त भ्रष्टाचार, राज्य सञ्चालनमा देखिएको संवेदनहीनता विरुद्धको चेतनाको प्रतिबिम्ब थियो। संविधानको मर्म र भावना बमोजिम सुशासन, समृद्धि र विकासको क्षेत्रमा भएका कमी कमजोरी र त्यसबाट सृजित असन्तोष, अभाव वा उपेक्षाको कारणले यस आन्दोलनको जन्म भएको कुरालाई हामीले स्वीकार गर्नुपर्दछ।
We'll go for a short break here. More news coming up. Welcome back to Primetime News here on NTV World. Following reports of Nipah virus infections in neighbouring India, Nepal has heightened vigilance, particularly in its western side. In Sudur Pashchim provinces, Kailali border points including Gauri Fata, Gadda Chowki and Sati now have health desks, and travellers showing symptoms such as fever, headache or respiratory issues are being screened and isolated if needed. The virus, primarily found in fruit bats and pigs, poses a risk of transmission from animals to humans and between humans, prompting strict monitoring. Government hospitals have set up separate treatment wards and isolation facilities, and female community health volunteers are spreading awareness at the village level. Open borders with India make districts like Kailali and Kanchanpur in western Nepal especially vulnerable, necessitating ongoing precautionary measures. Nepal's Election Commission has stated it will not establish alternative polling centres, even as seasonal migration has left many high-altitude Himalayan villages completely empty. In districts such as Darchula, Humla, Dolpa, Manang and Mustang, residents of remote settlements descend to lower areas during the harsh winter months to escape heavy snowfall and freezing temperatures. For instance, in Darchula, all residents of the villages Changru and Tinkar moved to the district headquarters Kalanga in early December and are expected to return only in late April. With voters absent from their home villages, local election officers have already shifted some polling centres to district headquarters. In Dolpa, officials report that villages in Dolpo Buddha and Shefoksundo rural municipalities are completely empty except for a few caretakers. Similarly, in Humla's Limi Valley, 3 entire settlements are vacant, while heavy snow has cut off access to other villages like Nyalu, Lake and Nara Lake. The Commission considers the seasonal migration of high-altitude residents a routine occurrence and plans to proceed with the elections as scheduled. As Spain opens the door to permanent residency for undocumented immigrants, hundreds of Nepali youth living in the country are left in limbo due to delays in obtaining passports from their embassy. Many visit the Nepali embassy in Madrid daily, hoping to secure new passports, but most return disappointed. The Spanish government recently announced a legal pathway for undocumented migrants, allowing them to regularize their status starting this April. Thousands of Nepalese who reach Spain via various countries are anxious that without a valid passport, they will be unable to participate in the residency process. Nepali youth fear complications using old passports or other documents, prompting a surge of applications at the embassy. However, the embassy currently issues passport tokens only on Fridays, creating a backlog and leaving many without valid identification. Some applicants have travelled to Spain at personal cost and now risk missing the legal residency window. Representatives from the Nepali community, including NRN Spain officials, social activists and local organizations, have urged Nepal government to expand passport services, allow multiple applications at once and deploy mobile passport teams to assist applicants. International news coming up next. For now, a short break. Palestinians have started to enter Rafah border crossing between Gaza Strip and Egypt after it reopened for the movement of people. The crossing has largely been closed since May 2024, when the Gazan side was captured by Israeli forces. The reopening was supposed to happen during the first phase of US President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas, which began in October. But Israel blocked it until the return of the body of the last Israeli hostage in Gaza, which happened last week. It will come as a relief to many Palestinians who see it as a lifeline to the world, although there is frustration that only small numbers of people and no goods will be allowed through. A Ukrainian drone attack struck the Russian border region of Belgorod Oblast on Monday, killing 2 civilians and damaging residential buildings, according to local authorities. According to Belgorod Oblast Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, the overnight strike hit a private home in the city of Stary Oskol, igniting a fire that severely damaged the structure and caused part of it to collapse. Belgorod Oblast borders Ukraine's Kharkiv, Sumy and Luhansk regions. The region has seen frequent Ukrainian drone and missile incursions since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, with periodic civilian casualties reported by Russian officials. China has executed 4 members of the Bai family mafia, one of the notorious dynasties that ran scam centers in Myanmar. They were among 21 of the family's members and associates who were convicted of fraud, homicide, injury and other crimes by a court in Guangdong province. Last November, the court sentenced 5 of them to death, including the clan's patriarch Bai Suocheng, who died of illness after his conviction. Last week, China executed 11 members of the Ming family mafia as part of its crackdown on scam operations in Southeast Asia that have entrapped thousands of Chinese victims. Japan says sediment containing rare earth elements have been retrieved from ocean depths of approximately 20,000 feet during a recent test mission. The sediment was collected from the seabed off the remote Pacific island of Minami Torishima by the drilling vessel Chikyu, operated by the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology. The mission, which began last month, is part of Japan's efforts to explore deep-sea resources and secure supplies of rare earth elements. It is said to be essential for modern electronics, renewable energy technologies and electric vehicles. Rare earths are a group of 17 metals critical for manufacturing magnets, batteries and other high-tech components. The Japanese government has emphasized the strategic importance of rare earth elements amid increasing global competition and supply chain concerns. Snake bites claim tens of thousands of lives in India each year, but a lack of access to anti-venom and trained health workers is worsening the crisis. The federal government estimates that around 50,000 Indians die annually from snake bites, roughly half of global fatalities. Some studies suggest that the toll may be higher, with an estimated 1.2 million deaths in India between 2000 and 2019. A new report by the Global Snakebite Task Force found that 99% of healthcare workers in India face challenges administering antivenom, citing poor infrastructure, limited supply and insufficient training. Nearly half of respondents said delays in treatment caused serious complications, including amputations, surgeries and permanent mobility problems. The World Health Organization classifies snakebite as a highest priority neglected tropical disease, disproportionately affecting poor rural communities. Globally, an estimated 5.4 million people are bitten by snakes each year, resulting in more than 100,000 deaths. We're going for another break here. More international update and sports news coming up shortly. Americans are consuming more coffee than at any point in recent decades, but Starbucks is losing market share as competition in the U.S. coffee industry intensifies. Starbucks remains the largest coffee chain in the U.S., operating nearly 17,000 stores nationwide and planning to open hundreds more. However, the company is facing increased competition from both established rivals and emerging brands, making it more difficult to regain customers lost in recent years. According to data from food industry consulting firm Technomic, Starbucks' share of spending at U.S. coffee shops declined in both 2024 and 25. The company now holds 48% of the market, down from 52% in 2023. Additional competition comes from fast-growing drive-through chains such as 7 Brew, Scooters Coffee and Dutch Brothers. International brands are also entering the U.S. market, including Chinese chains Luckin Coffee and Mixu. A rare wave of rime ice has magically transformed the arid landscapes of North China's Inner Mongolia into a shimmering white wonderland, captivating visitors with a breathtaking winter spectacle. Recent cold fronts sweeping the Aina banner of Alsa League brought a series of snowfalls to the sprawling populous Euphratica forest, coating countless branches in delicate rime ice. Spanning 30,000 hectares, these ancient desert woodlands rise from the frozen ground, their branches coated in crystal clear rime that glitters in the setting sun. Rime ice, formed only when frigid temperatures meet abundant moisture, is a rare sight in Aina Banner, where the arid climate brings less than 40 millimeters of annual rainfall. The stunning, captivating scenery has drawn crowds of travelers to witness this elusive natural artwork. The Carnival of Venice, one of Europe's oldest and most visually striking festivals, is drawing visitors from around the world. Renowned for its historical masks, elaborate costumes and centuries-old traditions, the festival offers both locals and tourists a rare glimpse into Venetian artistry and cultural heritage. Over the coming weeks, streets and canals of Venice will host parades, masquerade balls and performances, creating a spectacle where history and imagination intertwine. Festival organizers say the event remains one of the few major European celebrations that preserve historical authenticity while attracting international attention. Authorities are coordinating security and public health measures to manage the influx of visitors and ensure the smooth running of both events. Time now for sports update. Nepal has won in its second match in the South Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara. In the second match, Nepal secured a 2-1 victory over Bhutan at Pokhara International Football Stadium. Srijana Baduwal gave Nepal the lead in 36th minute of the first half, and Pranjita Rai doubled the advantage in the 79th minute of the second half. Baduwal was named player of the match for her performance. Earlier, Nepal had lost their opening match against India 1-0. Bhutan, in turn, suffered a heavy 12-0 defeat against Bangladesh in the tournament opener. Meanwhile, Bangladesh won its first match under the SAF Women's Under-19 Championship held at Pokhara International Football Stadium today. Bangladesh defeated India 2-0 with both goals in the first half. Pakistan will take part in this month's Men's T20 World Cup but will not play its scheduled match against tournament co-host India. The sides are scheduled to play in Colombo, Sri Lanka in accordance with an agreement signed last year, stating that the two countries will play at neutral venues whenever one of them hosts an ICC event. In a statement, the Pakistan government said it grants approval to their team's participation but added Pakistan cricket team shall not take the field in the match scheduled on 15th February 2026 against India. However, the International Cricket Council, which governs the sport, said Pakistan's stance was difficult to reconcile and called on the country's cricket chiefs to explore a mutually acceptable resolution. The India-Pakistan match is one of the most commercially valuable fixtures in world cricket, generating peak broadcast and advertising revenue. Estimates suggest the potential loss from the cancelled match alone could reach around $50 million if broadcasters and advertisers lose the marquee fixture. Now, athletes from around the world have begun arriving in Milan to settle into the Olympic Village ahead of the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Games. The multisport event is scheduled to be held from February 6 to 22nd. Officials said the early arrivals allow competitors to acclimatize to the local conditions and complete final preparations before the opening ceremonies. The Olympic Village, located in the heart of Milan, has been prepared to host thousands of athletes and team officials, providing accommodation, training facilities and medical services. Organizers said security measures are in place to ensure a safe and smooth arrival process. The Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Games will feature competitions across multiple venues in northern Italy, including both urban and mountain locations. Organizers emphasize that final preparations at the Olympic Village and surrounding venues are on schedule, with local authorities coordinating transportation, logistics and health protocols. Turkey is hosting the World Snowcross Championship for the first time. The international event kicked off with high-speed qualifying rounds, drawing significant attention to the region's rugged natural beauty. The first day of the organization saw athletes battling challenging environmental conditions on a specially prepared 650-meter track. A total of 28 athletes from 8 countries, including US, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Czechia, Italy, are competing in the event. Swedish athletes dominated the women's competition, with Wilma Johnson claiming first place, followed by Elisa Hansson and Hilda Ohman. In the men's race, Ole Salstrom of Sweden secured victory, while Aki Pilaja of Finland finished second and Philip Haar of Sweden placed third. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Nepal's president called on Japanese investors to boost bilateral trade, says legal reforms and Lumini development offer opportunities for investors. Authorities heightened screening at Nepal's border areas amid Nipah virus threat. Travelers screened at key borders to prevent spread. Election Commission to not shift poll centers despite empty villages. Seasonal migration leaves high-altitude districts vacant ahead of elections. Palestinians start entering Rafah border after 1.5 years. No goods to be allowed through in the deal, part of the US ceasefire plan. Japan retrieves ocean sediment containing rare earth elements. Discovery boosts Japan's drive for non-dependency on critical resources. And Nepal secures its first win in SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara. Defeats Bhutan 2-1 to record opening victory. That is all for the moment here on NTV World Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and also get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by.
Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Welcome to the hinterlands. This weekly show whips together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal. Takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. It's a country alive with stories, laughter, ideas, and everyday magic. I'm Rosina Rai, and we will be leading you into this journey every week. Welcome back again. We begin today's episode of the Hinterlands with a report of late January snowfall that has blanketed high hilly and mountainous regions, turning much of the parts of the country into a winter wonderland. The snowfall has brought much needed relief to high altitude areas, raising hopes for stronger winter crops, also bringing joy to farmers and local tourists. Details in this report. As January draws to a close, widespread snowfall has blanketed Nepal's high mountainous and hilly region. The fresh snow has drawn tourists to popular destinations, while farmers across the areas have welcomed the precipitation after a dry spell. The snowfall and accompanying rain have increased soil moisture, offering partial relief to winter crops that had suffered due to a lack of precipitation. Heavy and continuous snowfall has been reported in several high-altitude districts of the country, including Manang, Humla, and Bajura. The sudden change in the weather condition has disrupted daily life in the western hilly districts. Snowfall that began Tuesday night has blocked sections of mid-hill highway, while rain and snow continue to affect transportation and normal activities. Mustang district has experienced heavy snowfall, leaving hills and mountains covered in thick snow. The Kagbeni-Korala roadway, a key route in the region, has been closed due to adverse weather, with snow accumulating up to 2 feet in some areas. Meanwhile, northern parts of Gorkha have also witnessed snowfall since Tuesday night, turning the Himalayas, high hills and villages white. In Raswa district, thick snow covered upper regions, while lower areas received light rainfall. Several areas including Gosaikunda, Langtang, Lauribina, Dhunse Lake have been most affected. Meanwhile, Department of Hydrology and Meteorology has warned that heavy snowfall in Nepal's high Himalayan regions has increased the risk of avalanches and other weather-related hazards. Trekkers and tourists have been advised to be cautious. After that snowfall report from the highlands, we now move to the lower belt of the country, Kapilvastu, where the vibrant colors of Rangoli become a powerful medium of expression, culture, and women's empowerment. Let's take a look at how red, yellow, and green are used metaphorically to the power, happiness, and the growth.
Red, yellow, green. These colored powders may seem ordinary, but here they carried the confidence of women claiming their space through art. With the aim of empowering women through the promotion of Awadh region painting and ground art, a Rangoli competition was organized in Tauli Hawa, the district headquarters of Kapilvastu. Artists used colored powders on the ground to create Rangoli artworks depicting Ram Temple, Goddess Sita, and Lord Ram. Focused on promoting Awadh painting and ground art while strengthening women's participation in cultural expression, the program hosted artists from 11 different groups.
यो प्रतियोगिताले केवल कपिलवस्तु नगरपालिकाभित्र लुकेका प्रतिभालाई मात्रै बाहिर नल्याई छिमेकी पालिकामा रहेको प्रतिभालाई समेत अगाडि ल्याएको कारणले पनि वास्तवमा यो संस्थालाई म विशेष धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु,
जसमा चाहिँ हामीले अवधि लोक चित्रकला अवधि लोककलालाई चाहिँ प्रस्तुत गरिएको छ। तपाईहरुले यहाँ हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ, अब उहाँले त्यो देखाउनुहुन्छ। डिफ्रेन्ट ग्रुपले 11 जनाको ग्रुपले डिफ्रेन्ट चाहिँ रङ्गोली बनाछन् अनि त्यो रङ्गोलीमा चाहिँ झल्काउने कोसिस के छ भने अवधि हाम्रो जुन हिस्टोरिकल एउटा एन्सियन्ट अवधि लोककलालाई प्रस्तुत गर्ने चाहिँ कोसिस गरिएको छ।
The organizers also adjudged the winners and rewarded accordingly with cash prize and certificates. The event also marked 2 years since the consecration of infant form of Lord Ram, Sri Ram Lalla, in Ayodhya, India. It added cultural and religious significance to the women-led artistic celebration.
In the 21st century, as concerns grow over declining moral values in education, a new initiative from Nepal's Sangja district is drawing attention. Local schools have begun introducing values-based education by distributing the Bhagavad Gita, aiming to promote responsibility, respect, and ethical awareness among students across the region. More in this report.
As education systems worldwide prioritize areas such as science, technology, and academic competitiveness, there is also a growing need for complementary curricula focused on moral and values-based education. In Nepal, moral and values-based education is often included within subjects such as social studies, life skills, and citizenship-related education. However, it is not yet a compulsory subject in the national curriculum, leaving room for localized initiatives to supplement ethical learning. In a country as culturally and religiously diverse as Nepal, one such initiative from Sangja district in mid-western Nepal focuses on moral education at the school level. The campaign distributes the Bhagavad Gita in schools and encourages students to reflect on ethical behavior.
विद्यार्थीहरुमा साथै यो आम जनसमुदायमा पनि नैतिकताको खडेरी परेको हामीले चाहिँ देख्न सुन्न र त्यो भोगेका पनि छौं। त्यसैलाई पनि निर्मूल पार्ने उद्देश्यका साथ हामीले यो गीता वितरण अभियानलाई चाहिँ अगाडि बढाएका हौं।
The Gita is an ancient philosophical text from South Asia, widely studied for its perspectives on duty, self-discipline, and ethical action. While rooted in the Hindu tradition, it is often approached as a guide to moral reasoning as well as religious instruction. Organizers say the initiative reinforces universal values such as responsibility, respect, and social harmony, principles they believe cut across cultures and belief systems. Under the One Household, One Gita campaign, more than 6,000 copies have already been distributed across the district.
पुस्तक वितरण गर्ने कार्यक्रम गरेका छौं। यसबाट विद्यार्थीहरुमा सच्चरित्रता, नैतिकता पलाएर जानेछ र उनीहरुभित्र एउटा सद्गुण वृद्धि हुनेछ भन्नेमा हामी आशावादी छौं।
By combining philosophical study with classroom discussion, organizers hope the initiative will help young people develop ethical awareness and habits that extend beyond school, contributing to a more respectful, responsible, and cohesive society.
Now let's talk about a unique blend of heritage and practicality in central Nepal, where communities are turning their backs on modern plastic water tanks and reviving traditional stone and cement vessels, locally known as kaito.
As modern lifting technology and pipeline-fed tap systems reach the most remote corners of Nepal, ancient water storage traditions are being almost forgotten. But in Harina's rural municipality of Sangza, the narrative is shifting. Instead of abandoning their heritage for plastic alternatives, residents of Khairikot have launched a campaign to revive and repurpose traditional water jars known as khaitos. This shift is not just about saving money, but also about building a sustainable future by reviving the past. For decades, the hamlet of 108 households in Khairikot has been facing a crippling water shortage. Survival depended entirely on harvesting rainwater stored meticulously in large earthen jars constructed by hand. However, with the tradition to federalism, the local government implemented lifting technology, bringing pipeline-supplied water directly to every doorstep. While the taps brought relief, they also made the traditional khaitos disappear. Many expected the village to shift toward modern plastic storage, but the community had other plans. Recognizing the durability and cooling properties of the traditional jars, they have begun a systematic effort to treat and repurpose them as primary storage units for their new water supply.
अब घरको टिनबाट आकाश पानी सङ्कलन गरेर खाइन्थ्यो अनि चाहिँ त्यसले नै खाने पानी नै अब नपुग भएपछि हामीले युज गरिन्थ्यो भने अहिले चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ यो प्रत्येक घरमा धारा छ लिफ्टिङ खाने पानी चाहिँ हामीले एक्स्ट्रा भएको यहाँ चाहिँ स्टोर गरेर राखिन्छ.
The Khairikot model offers a blueprint for other districts, a way to utilize existing social resources to bridge the infrastructure gap without the environmental and financial cost of new materials. The revival of Khaito in Sangza serves as a reminder that progress doesn't always require replacing the old with the new.
We move on to our next report from the eastern hills of Nepal, where the traditional practice of raising chauri, a hybrid of yak and cow, is slowly declining. The downturn raises serious concerns as it threatens local livelihoods and puts at risk a long-standing farming legacy passed down through generations. In Nepal's high hilly and mountainous regions, chauri, a hybrid of yak and cow raising, has long been a vital part of their livelihoods. For generations, local communities in the upper areas of Bhojpur in eastern Nepal have relied on this practice to support their families. However, this traditional occupation has begun to face serious challenges over time. Farmers say that the growing shortage of grazing land is helping the sector toward extinction. During the monsoon season, chauri are taken to high-altitude pastures. In winter, they are brought down to village or farmlands as herders follow a seasonal migration pattern. While this system has sustained chauri raising for decades, recent restrictions imposed by the community forest on grazing have made it increasingly difficult for farmers to continue their work. Areas that once had hundreds of sheds now have only a few remaining.
हामीलाई अब चाहिने भनेको चरण क्षेत्र हो. अब चौरी गाई भनेको औले गाई अरु जस्तो अब घरमा लगेर बानेर त्यसलाई गर्ने खुवाउने उ पनि हुँदैन हैन. यो भनेको अब एक दिनमा 10-15 किलोमिटर भन्दा टाढा चर्न जान्छ. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अब त्यो एकै ठाउँमा थोरै सानो ठाउँमा हुँदैन. त्यही भएर यो लोप हुने सम्भावना धेरै ठूलो छ.
Although the government has introduced subsidy programs to support chauri farmers, farmers say that the shortage of grazing land remains their biggest challenge. In recent years, youths in the district have shown interest in embracing chauri farming, but ongoing grazing restrictions have raised serious concerns about the long-term sustainability of the business. The age-old tradition that has been supporting the livelihood of the rural people is crying for support, and that is from all the sectors. Nepal's breadbasket, the Tarai Madhesh region, as usual, is bracing for drought in the dry season. Despite repeated assurances from leaders, indifference in allocating budget and lackluster performance of the underway irrigation projects has put farmers at stress at the peak wheat cultivation. Persistent drought and recurring irrigation problem during the peak plantation season in Nepal's Tarai region remains a challenge for many years. In 2025, Nepal government declared all 8 districts of the plains as a drought-hit zone and emphasized the need for long-term solutions. The government also promised immediate relief to address acute water shortages, food security, and agricultural distress. Despite these commitments, the Tarai region is once again facing the problem in early 2026. It has been attributed to a combination of environmental degradation, delayed infrastructure projects, and climate-induced water scarcity. Cultivation of wheat, the country's second most important staple crop after rice, is currently at a critical stage, and farmers are struggling to provide timely irrigation. In Dhanusa district, where rainfall is the only source of irrigation, farmers are managing using their own limited resources. Many have taken loans to install equipment and technology to irrigate wheat sprouts. Despite repeated government promises, farmers report that irrigation facilities, including deep borings, step borings, shallow tube wells, and traditional wells, have not been adequately maintained. Irrigation aside, shortages of chemical as well as organic fertilizers have added to farmers' burdens. Yet, farmers in Dhanusa continue cultivating wheat, highlighting both their resilience and the crop's importance to national food security. According to the Agriculture Development Center in Dhanusa, wheat has been planted in approximately 40,000 hectares of land, with an expected production of 120,000 metric tons this year. However, farmers fear that output may decline this year if the current challenges persist. As Nepal strives for food security and agricultural self-reliance, real solutions on the ground are urgently needed, not just promises on paper. The Hinterlands Corps is a commitment to give voice to people and communities long forgotten in the remote corners of the country. Fulfilling that duty, we have repeatedly brought their stories to the light. In our latest report, we turn our focus to one of Nepal's most marginalized indigenous communities, the Chepang. Kanchimaya Praja, 26-year-old from Hetora in central Nepal, was born with a congenital disability but has never received the social security allowance provided by the government for persons with disabilities. The reason is both simple and heartbreaking. She does not have a citizenship certificate or a disability identity card. Without these documents, the doors to her basic rights remain closed. Her story is just an example of the ongoing struggles faced by the Chepang community, which has a population of 84,364. Despite constitutional guarantees, many Chepang people continue to fight for basic rights. Nepal's federal system promised a new era of inclusion and equality, yet for many Chepang, life remains a daily challenge. They reflect a systematic challenge confronting the Chepang community. Many struggles to obtain essential documents such as birth certificates, marriage registration, disability IDs, and senior citizen cards. Even when individuals reach the eligible age, there is often no guidance or support to help them navigate the process. A survey by the National Human Rights Commission in Nepal's Mokwanpur district found that around 9% of Chepang people lack citizenship.
एनजिओहरू पनि विभिन्न सेक्टरबाट चाहिँ यो चाहिँ हाम्रो चेपाङ समुदायमा कुपोषणको कुरा गरौँ, बाल विवाहको कुरा गरौँ, यी सबै कुरा क्षेत्रमा काम गरिरहेको छ, तर यिनीहरूको चाहिँ त्यो नतिजा चाहिँ एकदम शून्य छ। यो नतिजा शून्य चाहिँ किन भइरहेछ भने उनीहरू सम्बन्धित समुदायमै पुग्न सकेको छैन के। खाली मात्रै शहर केन्द्रित र त्यसपछि सदरमुकाम केन्द्रित कार्यक्रम भयो।
The government has made efforts to address these gaps. In coordination with local and provincial authorities, federal programs have been launched targeting Chepang communities in areas such as education, health, livelihood, housing, and empowerment. Yet, awareness of these programs remains low. Central President of the Chepang Association highlights most initiatives under the government fail to reach families in remote areas. For citizens like Kanchimaya to fully enjoy the rights promised by the Constitution, the state must go beyond policy announcements. Door-to-door information campaigns and community-based monitoring systems are essential to ensure that no one is left behind. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterland, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. This is Rosina Rai here again. Goodbye for now.
What is the power of music that political narratives don't?
The real music comes between the notes. It's the silence. I don't think you can change the country. It's not a. I think it's good to start with your own home, you know, your own room. Can you do some changes in your own room? So I'm working in my own room.
Fixing your internet.
So you can play the same note. For example, just give you a little bit of an example, Sudan, of this. Sounds very Nepali.
Right.
And it could be on the mountain. But if I did...
That's the signature of Manus Newana. Let's talk about the Grammy moment. What was it like?
Oh my God. Well, you know, it was 2020. It was blessings. I've been very blessed to also to collaborate with some Westerner musicians. One of them was Deva Pramal and Miten. They were, you know, Miten and Deva, they were very inspired by Eastern philosophy. Also, actually, they were very inspired by Osho's world. And through that, they got to learn a lot about the mantras and the beauty of what our music can bring to the people. And I went to Los Angeles to be there with 10,000 people in the Staple Arena. It was amazing. I wore a Nepali dress and put instead of kukri, I put my bansuri.
Wow.
It was proudly. I felt like, oh great, thank you.
Dai Lake in Karnali province is a geographically remote district, yet rich with untapped potential for tourism. Stepping into Dai Lake, celebrated as a treasure trove of Khas art, culture and heritage, brings a unique sense of joy. Journey begins amid its natural beauty, leading us toward Mahabur Rural Municipality. As we leave the mid-hill highway, the terrain becomes challenging, with hilly, muddy roads demanding patience and skill. Long lines of vehicles crawl carefully along the cliffs, reflecting both the difficulty of the route and the enduring devotion of Mahabud Dham. Many travelers choose to continue on foot, advancing step by step toward their destination. Passing through Channa, Dasarathi, Okharbans, Bhavsaini, Noli and Unipata, pilgrims ascend the slopes toward Lisne before finally reaching Mahabu Patan. Pilgrims from Dai Lake and nearby districts often arrive late at night, having begun their journey the previous day. The path to Mahabudham is thrilling, adventurous and breathtaking, made even more dramatic by the steady rain, drifting fog and steep inclines. Yet the journey itself feels uniquely rewarding. Mahabu Lake or Mahabu Dham, located within Mahabu Rural Municipality, is a remarkable place of natural beauty, religious significance and cultural heritage. Situated at an altitude of 4,200 meters, the area is adorned with emerald lakes, grazing flocks of sheep and goats, and a sky that dances with Himalayan mist. Every year, during Janai Purnima, a grand fair is held here, drawing thousands of devotees from across the region. Mahabudham's spiritual importance is deeply rooted in the ancient worship of Lord Shiva, revered here as the origin site. From Mahabu Lake, visitors can enjoy magnificent views of Api and Sai Palhimal, and on clear days, even the plains of Bardia. Given its religious importance and natural splendor, Mahabudham holds immense potential as a religious tourism destination. Improving the rough, narrow access roads is essential for supporting this growth. Mahabudham is more than a pilgrimage site. It is a confluence of culture, history, faith, and nature. To truly appreciate its significance, one must visit Mahabu Lake at least once, immerse oneself in its natural beauty, and experience the serene environment that leaves a lasting impression.
Is geography still an asset? Is non-alignment still a strategy? And in a world of sharper choices, does Nepal shape outcomes or simply adapt to them? On Geopark tonight, we seek answers to these very urgent questions. I am Shivani Thapa Bosnet. Around the world, power is shifting but not settling. Great powers are competing more openly. Regional orders are under strain. And for small states like Nepal, the space to maneuver is narrowing, not disappearing, but becoming more demanding. My guest today has spent decades inside this system as a diplomat, an ambassador, and a close observer of regional and international power. Dr. Samburam Simkhara has just returned from a major conference in India themed at preventing the South Asian dilemma. And tonight on Geopod, we ask a question that goes to the heart of Nepal's place in the world. Does Nepal matter? Welcome to Geopod, Dr. Simkhara.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Mine too.
Let's start with the bigger picture. Is South Asia today strategically more important or more vulnerable compared to, a decade ago?
Both. South Asia has always been strategically very important because it's located between the Indo-Pacific as well as the very sensitive region of the Middle East. So the Indian Ocean region, and especially South Asia at the heart of that, has always been strategically important. But of course, that partly depends on where the locus of international relations is. So historically in the Cold War era, the main theater, center of interstate relations was the transatlantic, because the competition was between the liberal democratic world led by the United States and the socialist communist world led by the former Soviet Union. So as a result, the Europe was the focus and transatlantic relation was the center. Now the Cold War has ended. So after the post-Cold War era, pivot has shifted to the Indo-Pacific. So while the strategic importance was always there, now the focus has now shifted to this region.
Mm-hmm. You mean like importance and vulnerability are both rising together?
Yes, in the sense that, look, if you can manage that importance, and if you cannot manage that importance, then vulnerability always increases. And that's what is happening. In this new contest between the, if I can term it like that, although it's not necessarily called that way, but geographically, the real contest between the East and the West has now started. And, the rise of China as the other aspiring superpower. So that way, both importance, the strategic importance, as well as the vulnerability is both existing at the same time.
Is that importance and vulnerability, of course, paired with the greater risks for smaller states like Nepal?
It has significantly increased the risks for countries like Nepal, primarily because in the post-World War II development, the United Nations was established to create a new kind of world order beyond the traditional application of power. So there was at least some modicum of international rules and norms. But in this new sort of contest, as you can see from what's happening around the world today, that in fact the multilateral approach to international relations is greatly diminishing. So there is greater bilateralism, and in fact there's greater unilateralism. So greater countries starting to impose their will on all the others, but naturally on the small ones are more vulnerable in this whole process. So our, sort of for smaller countries, always a rule-based order is much better than a world completely based on the exercise of power.
Mm-hmm. You're just returning back from New Delhi, where you attended this conference, where you were the key speaker. If I'm not wrong, it was themed at preventing the South Asian dilemma, neighborhood first or last. I believe that was a question around which the conversation revolved. Now, what exactly is this dilemma, Dr. Simkhara? Dependence? Division?
This was not Delhi, by the way. It was in Kolkata. The conference, the international conference, was organized jointly by the Indian Council of World Affairs, which is based in Delhi, and of course has branches all over India. Then the Jadavpur University Department of International Relations, And there is a society called Kolkata Society for Asian Studies. So it was organized jointly by the three organizations. The theme of the conference revolved around, the India's, after Prime Minister Narendra Modi was first elected, he proposed the idea of what you call neighborhood first. As part of that, he invited all the SAARC countries, heads of states and heads of government, to his inaugural function. So the conference was a kind of an evaluation of what has happened to that neighborhood first approach in South Asia, especially in the context of rising power, great power contest. That was the theme of the conference. And my paper was what you just said, in the sense that I have always analyzed this South Asian dilemma between neighborhood first or neighborhood last. And it emanates from our own, old saying, Naziko Devta Hela. That has always been part of a thinking in this region. Because our approach, especially in the modern times, has always been outward looking. It's not necessarily bad to be outward looking, but that outward look has to be sustained by internal strength and preparation. When you engage in this overly outward exposure without the ability to manage the forces of external factors, then you become very vulnerable. So that was the question I raised, in the sense that is the South Asian dilemma of neighborhood first or last ultimately leading towards a melodrama of neighborhood last? And I raised that question because of the nature of the relationship between major countries in South Asia, and also, the state in which the regional organization that was created to, sort of facilitate interstate relations in South Asia, SAARC, is almost in a state of coma. So my articulation was based on, one is, I wrote a piece in Kathmandu on the 40th Charter Day of SAARC, the 8th of December 2025, where I exactly named my article this. And secondly, I'm very happy to share with you that in fact very recently a very well-known Indian publisher, Manohar Books, has published my most recent book called SAARC to BIMSTEC, Breakdown or Breakthrough in Regional Cooperation, where I'm asking these questions. Do we see our future through the process of neighborhood last? If so, it's a very distorted notion. Or should we rethink this and prevent this idea, degenerating into neighborhood last, and try and somehow revitalize the regional cooperation mechanisms?
Mm-hmm. In this entire complexity of what you just said, the complexity of dilemmas, about choices of, is this all about choices for big powers or the constraints of these smaller states?
The choices are for both. The peculiarity of the 21st century interstate relations is such that no country, irrespective of how powerful it may be, can expect to resolve all its problems on its own without some form of cooperation, interstate cooperation. Look at climate, for instance. Look at pandemics, COVID, for instance. Look at migration. Look at trade. So these things require international cooperation. So as a result, naturally, if there was a more multilateral or more regional approach to interstate relations, it would be beneficial to smaller countries, but it is also beneficial to bigger countries. So that is why I articulate the idea of what you call, every country will conduct its foreign policy based on its national interest. But in an increasingly interconnected and globalizing world, if every nation state only focuses on its very narrow national interest, then where is the cooperation? So that is why first of all, United Nations was created to what I call harmonization of individual national interests within the broader global good. And in the case of SAR, within the broader regional good. So that every country's national interest is protected within the notion of regional good.
This certainly brings us to the concept at the center of today's discussion, mattering, right? So when analysts say a country matters, Dr. Singhbara, what do they actually mean? Power, leverage, or the ability to shape the outcomes?
When you ask how does a country matter, it depends on what perspective you are taking. For some people, Nepal's geography matters because we're located between historically two great civilizations and marching very resolutely forward to reclaim their rightful place in the global high table. Largest two countries in the world in terms of population, very fastest growing economies, and rising military powers. So our location and geography is very important. For some people, our Himal, the water, the exploitation of that water for the national good or for individual profit. Some people might be thinking, many people haven't looked at this picture. But my own analysis says that one of the major reasons for global interest in Nepal is its water resources and its use. So it depends on who you ask, from whose perspective it is. But finally, in my view, Nepal is very significant for its very glorious history of long history of independence, and of course that's what we all, especially those of us who have represented this country externally, need to convey this message. I was elected the chairman of the UN's Human Rights Commission, and concurrently I became ambassador to Switzerland. So when I went to present my credentials to the Swiss president, unlike other credential presentations in Swiss tradition, then after all the credential ceremony, the president and the chancellor said, okay, Mr. Ambassador, let's have tea, coffee, and so they started talking. And in that process, the president said, Mr. Ambassador, you are the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. We have one Swiss candidate for a special rapporteur position. And we'd really be very grateful, considering Nepal-Switzerland's long-standing relationship, if you can appoint him. So from that perspective, Nepal mattered, even to Switzerland. Secondly, it was a very clear case that it is not only bigger countries or richer countries giving us assistance. That was also, smaller countries in multilateral diplomacy.
So what I reap is perspectives and positioning.
Exactly.
Those matter. Nepal sits between India and China. How do you view this? Is it an asset or a permanent constraint?
Interesting in the sense that, I have a book called Nepal-India-China Relation in the 21st Century. And that is what is a transformational IR, international relation. Historically, Dui Dhungaku Tarul, what does that signify? What did that signify? Why did our unifier define the country as a yam between two boulders? That indicated a very clear understanding in the limitation of the exercise of power when we conduct our international relations. Oftentimes foreign policy is defined as the application of national power in the promotion and protection of national interest. So he was very aware, because of our size, that we had to exercise that power very cautiously in between these two lands. So it was seen as a constant. Okay. Subsequently, soon after the political changes of 1990, I've written a piece called Continuity and Change in Foreign Policy. Now, what technology has done is transform the human development exercise so well that today, if you can conduct your domestic politics and foreign policy well, then you can transform that limitation into advantage. There is a very famous book called The Revenge of Geography. Historically, a small country in between two large powers is taken as a revenge of geography. But translating that into a reward of geography is also possible. Why? Because we have good relations with both India and China. They are the largest, three of the largest economies in the world. So we can have great trade relations. We can benefit from their development. But all of that requires a very wise and courageous domestic political leadership and very skillful diplomacy. So it depends,
Said that, and building from what you just said, what do its neighbors, Nepal's neighbors, expect from Nepal?
Well, they expect different things. Great powers have certain characteristics. What we are seeing in Europe and US today. They always would like, as far as possible, total alignment. With me or against me, kind of conceptualization. So those who think in that terms would like Nepal to be completely in their side of the matrix. Now, we have, in some sense, done a fairly good job historically in trying to explain our own complexity. And as a result, some country would understand our difficulty, our complexity, and of course would be happy with predictability, that you cannot, Nepal does not engage in the kind of politics and diplomacy where you say one thing in the morning, another thing in the afternoon, and another thing in the evening. That you have some element of consistency. And that would establish a kind of a relationship of trust building, confidence, that they may not be completely, agreeing with everything we say, but as far as the core interests of our two neighbors, if we can give them that assurance that we will not go against it, that we will, our soil will not be used counter to the interest of the other. So if you can give that kind of assurance, then of course their approach will change. And often that's the test of skillful diplomacy.
Mm-hmm. So when you meant predictability, you didn't really mean that they expect us to do what they want or simply avoid disruption?
We have our own national interests, so we can convey to them that our national interest is not contrary to what they expect from us in terms of their own national interest. So the skill of diplomacy is to calibrate the two without being completely subservient.
Well, as you say that, I would want to ask a question. Amidst all these expectations and the complexities around it, how much room does Nepal have to exercise independent judgment?
At some point, we did exercise our independent judgment. Historically, we have on one side, some issues of principles on which we said, look, this is the fundamental guiding principles of our foreign policy, and as a result, this is the way we are going. On the other hand, you can never look at diplomacy unidimensionally. So as a result, whenever, for instance, we are voting in the United Nations, it's also prudent for us to look around, see who is doing what, and as a result, calibrate ourselves accordingly, so that we don't ultimately turn out to be an odd man out, kind of thing. So, you have to look at it situation by situation.
Right. The pressure, I believe, is most visible when Nepal engages with either of its neighbors, India or China, right? Especially on projects that signal influence. I think that's where the pressure building points emerge. India has been emphasizing, or it emphasizes more on civilizational ties and security sensitivities, while on the flip side, China emphasizes more on connectivity and development. Now, how should Nepal engage with both of its neighbors without becoming strategically exposed?
Well, if India raises the question of civilizational connection, we do have civilizational connection. Relationship with India will not be counter to our relationship with China. So as a result, as an independent country, we of course take sort of our own views on world affairs, but that does not mean we cannot work with both. So it's important to sort of look at the nature of our relationship and then fashion our foreign policy and diplomacy accordingly, in a way that one is always a defined foreign policy is friendship with all, enmity with none. But within that overarching sort of principle, we have different priorities with different countries.
But I believe the problem arises when connectivity projects or the interest area also serve as strategic signals. Now, how does Nepal, in these sort of situations, right, when the sail is smooth, fine, but in situations like this, how does Nepal distinguish between infrastructure from influence?
I have argued that proximity adds vitality to interstate relation because of our neighborhood. We are close. Something happens there, it happens here. But then that proximity also makes our relationship more sensitive, more complex. So that is where the foreign policy prioritizing is. What will ultimately serve our national interest? And the way we have historically defined our national interest, whether it's the Dudunga Kotarul or subsequently others who have argued that anytime India or China conclude that we are not sensitive to their core vital interest, our foreign policy fails. What does that sort of show? That shows that within the broad framework of friendship with all, enmity with none, relationship with India, because of the multifarious, multidimensional relationship with China, because of our proximity, because we have a long border in the north, and of course also other kinds of relationship, are both vital, but they have their own nature, and we have to deal with them according to the nature of the relationship we have with them.
By any means, do you think, and is Nepal becoming strategically important to others but strategically irrelevant to itself?
There's a famous scholar called Paul Kennedy. He has many bestseller books in politics and international diplomacy. Grand strategies for war and peace, rise and fall of the great powers, and so on. But my own best favorite of his publications is a book called Preparing for the 21st Century. And there what he says is the nature of 21st century, because of the tremendous technological advancement, is such that there will be continuous process of changes. Any society that can foresee this, that prepares for it, and ultimately manages those changes, will be on the path of progress and prosperity. But change is going to be inevitable, but progress is not. So that change management is critical. And so from that perspective, if I look at Nepal's both domestic politics and foreign policy, and by the way, this is very important because foreign policy does not operate on its in isolation. It is oftentimes defined as the reflection of domestic politics. But for a strategically important country like Nepal, sometimes how we conduct our foreign policy also has very close, impinges closely on our domestic politics. So as a result, when I've been looking at it, and so in a paper I'm working on, and for a long time, parts of it have been published, but then I'm continuously updating it. And in it, for instance, I'm asking, where are the increasing foreign policy and complex foreign policy and national security challenges of Nepal? And there, when I look at domestic politics and foreign policy, my conclusion is we have been very effective, very good in bringing about change, what you referred to. But we have not been good in managing it to take those changes to their logical and meaningful conclusion. And as a result, what we witness is a continuous process of almost never-ending transition. 2007 to 1950, 1960s, 1990, 2006, most recent one. So we are in this process of transition. And so my other book, Triumph and Trauma of Transition, if we have been able to manage this transition well, it's quite amazing that how we have been able to achieve things that other countries have taken generations to come. But because we have been unable to manage this transition well, what is happening is domestically we're becoming more and more unstable. And in international relations and in the conduct of foreign policy, we have massively expanded in terms of quantitative expansion of relations. We're out of 193 countries, we have 183 countries diplomatic relations. We have over 31 missions abroad, embassies. We have 3 missions to the UN. We have several consulate generals. So they have sort of expanded. But what has happened is even more, the interest of the outside world on Nepal has increased even more. And as a result, their presence and consequently their influence and even role or pressure in our internal transformation also is becoming very critical. So that way, where we are is, in fact, we are in this sort of very difficult position of expanding external relations, but also under pressure, under difficulty in managing external roles and external interference. So foreign policy, in short, I've argued many times, is if you manage it well, it's cooperation. If you fail to manage it well, it's interference. That's where we are.
We're talking vis-a-vis the rapidly evolving world power dynamics and complemented by the tremendous change that is brought about by technology and the internet, right? So, which raises the question, does Nepal's traditional non-alignment still work?
We're located between India, which is a parliamentary democracy, and China, which runs under the direct sort of guidance of the centralized Communist Party. So we have two very different ideological friends on two sides. So even from that perspective, while countries would like us to align with one or the other, we have to follow some semblance of non-alignment to reassure both our neighbors that, look, we will not go against the interest of the other. So that's one part. Secondly, this non-alignment in the international level was a byproduct of the Cold War, because after decolonization and after the rise of the two, sort of poles, US on one side and Soviet Union on the other side. Today what you call the global South, leaders and scholars didn't want to take sides. And as a result, they conceptualized this idea of non-alignment, where I was myself, served in Switzerland. They call it neutrality. They don't take sides. So these are different variations. Because of the inability to think transformatively, the global South so far has no real non-alignment. There's alignment within non-alignment. So it's become a very weak sort of philosophy. But then gradually now, I think the global South, the BRICS, they are now starting to rethink their position in the world. And as a result, some element of non-alignment is something that I think is very critical for us.
Mm-hmm. How do you then see Nepal's diplomatic operating space at the moment changing? Is it expanding, narrowing, or becoming more complex?
Definitely it's becoming more and more complex, but in terms of the diplomatic space, we have quantitatively, massively increased that space, but qualitatively we are shrinking in terms of our ability to maneuver. Partly because of our internal politics, because it's been very, very... why? Because, the three fundamental pillars of contemporary statecraft is known as national sovereignty, national power, and national interest. The national power, when it declines, your ability to protect your national interest and national security also declines. And with the decline in that, your ability to protect your sovereignty further deteriorates. That's the situation we found ourselves in. There are many indicators. There is one institution called Louis Asian Power Index, where it puts Nepal increasingly in a decline and downward trend. Look at our passport. The quality of our passport is becoming so, diminished that in fact the number of countries where we can go without visa is virtually none except India. So all these are indicators of where we are at the global stage. It's not one way. We have other areas where our influence has been, where our role has been quite good. As Nepal has succeeded in chairing all the three main institutional pillars of the UN. The Security Council, the Human Rights Council, where I myself had the honor of serving, and currently our ambassador in New York serves as the chairman of the Economic and Social Council. Our army and security forces have a very honored role in global peacekeeping operation, UN's peacekeeping operations, so much so that today Nepal is the largest troop contributing countries in the world. So we have these sort of bright spots, but collectively, if you make a balance sheet of this massive expansion as opposed to the qualitative level of our foreign policy and diplomatic outreach, I'm afraid we are, the balance sheet is starting to, the black side is starting to decline.
Mm-hmm. And this is the case when many small states are fearing becoming sites of competition rather than subjects of strategy. So how do you see, is Nepal at risk of that?
I think when we are talking about another subject, foreign policy cannot be looked at only unidimensionally. There are always risks and opportunities. There are always challenges, and that is the test of our diplomatic work. In this whole exercise, as we were talking a little bit about these three main pillars of statecraft: national sovereignty, national power, and national interest, I find Nepal currently at a kind of a threshold. If we know how to conduct ourselves, we can significantly enhance our capability, our national power. And when we do that, our ability to protect our national interest enhances and our sovereignty strengthens. But that will require two or three very fundamental reorientations. One is this seemingly never-ending internal political instability. That has to end. Somehow the country has now to take a very definitive future course. That one is that. Secondly, I have this notion called reverse sequencing of national interest. What is a nation state? The nation state is essentially a collection of people within a given territory. So the interest of the people who live within that territory forms the foundation of your national interest. Where are people organized? They are organized around institutions. And so the second layer of nation state are set of institutions. Each institutions have their own interests. And the role of leadership is to leverage the interest of the individual, the interest of the institutions, to the pinnacle of national interest. That is where I am seeing difficulty, in the sense that today it's naturally where we have our individual interest in mind. But even institutional interests are bifurcated. What do you see in the political sphere today? Groups, the branches, not even the whole party, regions, languages, ethnicities, genders. And now there is a new dimension of conflict, a generational issue. So all of these is fragmenting our national interest, weakening our national interest. So here is a time when all Nepalis have to look inwards. And so what role have we played in this? Those of us who would say that we have played a positive role also have to look inwards and then redefine our action in a way. One great song, Desle Ragat Mage Malai Bali Chadao in Nepali. If the country needs it, I'm ready to sacrifice. So we stand today at that kind of a moment. The famous speech of President John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask me not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." I think we've come to that stage, in a very, very difficult stage, both in terms of our internal political transition as well as what's happening around the world. So to answer your question, we have both risks and opportunities. If we can do that and galvanize our society around our, supreme national interest, it doesn't take long for us to take off. Other countries have done it. Why can't we do it?
I believe the question for Nepal right now is how can it strengthen its strategic agency without provoking tensions?
First is our own internal management, transition management I was talking about. We have to re-engineer all our individual institutional behaviors so that they all focus towards the core interest, that we have the common understanding of nation first. Once that happens, then of course you need to develop accordingly the skills that you need both for internal management, economic management, as well as foreign policy management. There I have a principle called the 3 I's. First, we need to understand what are the core issues of our national interest. So the issues. Secondly, second I is institutions. We have to strengthen the institutions, because today, in some sense, we are in a state of institutional decline and decay. Look at our universities. Look at our other institutions of government. So second is that. And third is you have to sort of train and groom and identify and select individuals who lead these institutions. Because an institution sometimes is as good as the leader who leads it. At the moment lacks both the hope and the confidence that we can move forward. And some of the questions that you have posed, sometimes pains me. But then being an experienced person, I know that it's important to address. And we need to address those questions if we want to matter, as you initially said, as a nation in the world.
SAARC is dormant, BIMSTEC cautious, and bilateralism dominates, right? So has South Asia failed because of institutions or because of political will?
Well, institutions are in fact the product of political leadership. So as a result, it's both. The issue here is, one is the member states have not given SAARC as an institution the mandate that it requires. For instance, the political and contentious issues is not allowed to be discussed in the forum. The role of the Secretary General is very weak, as a mid-level career sort of official. So one is partly because member states have not empowered it to play the role that it should. That's number one. Secondly, it also depends on the leadership of the Secretary General. As I said, the regional organization is created to harmonize individual national interests of all member states within the collective regional good. And to do this, you need both mandate from the member states as well as authority to the Secretary General and the individual sort of commitment and understanding commitment of how regional cooperation idea emerged and why it is weak. That's what my book is all about. Now that the SAARC is not working, let's focus on BIMSTEC. But my argument is the very reason why UN has not been able to function its global role, the very reason why SAARC has not been able to function its regional role, unless you address the underlying root causes, how do you expect BIMSTEC to work any better? So it's just institutional proliferation, one more institution, good for people like us, diplomats, we have nice jobs and all that, but that's all it does. Ultimately, for the welfare of the people of the region, I don't expect it to do any better. So that is why South Asian leadership has to reflect back. Do we want to move individually, or is it possible to move individually, or is it possible for us to come together again like the original founders of SAARC did? That they realized that there was a essential sort of transformation that was essential, was to link regional security and common prosperity. That you needed this to come together to move forward in these two vital areas. There were differences even yesterday. But if you do away with the institution that is created to engage in dialogue, how do you bridge the differences? The differences will only increase.
Let me quickly run through Nepal's the said leverages. Nepal contributes, as you know, as we all know, through peacekeeping, and then there is climate advocacy part, and then there is multilateral diplomacy. Are these sources of leverage or comfort for Nepal at this point?
These are both. But then I was, I told you about my own experience on how it became a leverage. There is a saying that for small countries like Nepal, the only venue where you can punch above your weight is multilateral institutions, international forums. That's one. Secondly, let me give you one small example. When I was chairing one meeting, one country always sent a junior level diplomat, always dissented, because in UN you want to reach a consensus. So you're always creating a huddle. And so later on I talked to the ambassador of that country, and he had some issue with some other countries in the committee. So he said, well, okay, if you want us to move forward, why don't you arrange a meeting? So I arranged a meeting, and so eventually the committee moved forward. Eventually I realized what he was doing is he was leveraging his international role for the benefit of his bilateral relationship. So they had bargained, if you continue on this path, I will not let you have a consensus. So this is all depends on how you skillfully, conduct your diplomacy.
Mm-hmm. And finally, as we head towards wrapping up this conversation, Dr. Simkhara, in this age of global fox, what is Nepal's red line?
Well, Nepal's red line in one simple sentence is entanglement in great power rivalry. That is something we simply cannot afford to be involved in. So as a result, we need to upgrade our ability to convey both our strength and, of course, our complexities to the rest of the world. And as a result, it's primarily an age of communication. We need to use all sources of communication to convey this message. And particularly at this time, I think a program like this is very critical in the sense that, don't you think some people outside who were watching the devastation some months ago, where former Prime Minister, for 5 times Prime Minister, the ruling Foreign Minister, the kind of treatment they got, the devastation of our national treasures, all sort of symbols of our state institutions, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the president's office. What does that show? What does that give? What kind of impression does that give to the people? What kind of a country is Nepal? And so this is a time when we need to say, look, we have gone over this. We have been through this triumph and trauma of transition, but we are trying to manage it and moving forward. Secondly, this is the time we need the sympathy and support of the international community, our friends and partners. So if we can effectively articulate this message, I'm hopeful. In fact, last few events of the last few days, I don't know how you feel about it. I feel as if now there is a sense of hope that the country is moving towards election, and after the election, all of these different things that have been dividing our society ideologically, in many other ways, that the new parliament that comes will be able to sort of galvanize all people ultimately towards the well-being of the people and the interest of the country. So we need to give this message of hope and confidence. If we can do that, then I don't see any reason why the revenge of geography cannot be turned into a reward of geography.
We couldn't have ended this any better, Dr. Simkura. Thank you so much for coming over, sparing your time, and help us unpack Nepal's place in this fast-shifting world. Thank you. Tonight, one thing is clear. Nepal's geography, choices, and diplomacy matter, but only if it chooses to define its own path. For small states in a world of big powers, agency is the ultimate power. On Geopod, we asked, does Nepal matter? The answer certainly, ripping from the conversation, depends on what Nepal decides to do next. That's it from Geopod this week. Goodbye.
In the natural splendor, the silver-like peaks or the Himalayas glisten. Cradling a pond filled with milk in its lap, the Numbur Himal gleams. The Dudkunda, meaning a milk pond in Nepal's northeastern district of Solukhumbu, is truly the gateway to the paradise. The Numbur, Khatang and Karyalung mountains seem to smile at all times. Adorned with a garland of colorful flowers, the Dudkunda is overflowing as if filled with milk. The very sight defines nature at its best. Feels as if the Numbur mountain is giving motherly affection, holding the lake in its lap. The beauty is so serene and virgin that one fears not to stain it by touching. Indeed, Dudkunda is nature at its purest form. Located at Solu Dudkunda municipality, Taksindu, the natural paradise draws many visitors. No matter how many words are spent describing it, they all feel inadequate upon reaching there. The name itself is fulfilling and equally sacred.
हजारौं नरनारीहरू चाहिँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू दुधकुण्डमा जानुभएको छ। म पनि पुगेर आएँ। दुधकुण्ड असाध्यै पवित्र स्थल यो हिमाल काखमा रहेको तीर्थस्थल हो, पुण्यस्थल हो, देवस्थल हो र त्यहाँ चाहिँ एकचोटि पुग्नै पर्दो रहेछ। त्यहाँ पुगेर जुन आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ कहीँ पनि पाइँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ महसुस भयो।
आनन्द लाग्यो भएन, मस्त लाग्यो। अनि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ आएर तपस्या गरेर बस्नु जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई।
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो हैन, प्रकृतिले दिएको रमणीय तीर्थस्थल हैन। जो कोही पनि एकचोटि चाहिँ यहाँ आएर एकचोटि भ्रमण गरेर दर्शन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो।
Situated at an altitude of 4,531 meters above the sea level, Dudkunda is a sacred pilgrimage site of culture and nature. It feels like nature has blessed this place, and culturally, it has bound all castes and ethnicities in a thread of unity. There are various legends and sayings about Dudkunda. One argument is that the pond was formed during the creation of the Himalayas and was discovered by local sheep and yak herders. According to another legend, in ancient times, a yak would go to a stone where the pond is located and offer its milk every day. Later, the place was found to be a pond filled with milk, leading to its name, Dudh Kunda. This has also led to the belief that gods and goddesses reside here. There are 3 different routes to reach Dudh Kunda. One route is through Salleri, Faplu, Taksindu and Sasra Beni. Another route goes via Lukla, the gateway to the Everest, through Nunthala, Taksindu and Sahasra Beni. Nature has truly blessed the Solu Dudh Kunda municipality. Truly, just like the majestic Mount Everest, Dudh Kunda has the potential to be the destination for everyone in the days to come. It is a thread of unity among all castes and ethnicities. Just like the holy water of Dudh Kunda, it will become a pure and excellent destination.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had said just, fair and equitable nuclear agreement with the United States remains achievable provided Washington abandons its policy of coercion. Although both sides have confirmed they are in contact, neither has taken concrete steps to de-escalate the situation, sending mixed signals, expressing openness to talks while remaining prepared for conflict. Arakshi also reaffirmed Iran's openness to cooperation with American agencies and stressed that the primary obstacle lies in U.S. sanctions. White House officials say Trump has not made a final decision on a strike against Iran and remains open to a diplomatic solution. Regional countries such as Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar are working to organize a meeting between White House envoy Steve Witkoff and senior Iranian officials in Ankara later this week. The three countries, which worked with the U.S. government on the Gaza ceasefire deal, aim to prevent the escalation of regional conflict by encouraging U.S.-Iran negotiations. Palestinians have started to enter the Rafah border crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt after it reopened for the movement of people. The crossing has largely been closed since May 2024, when the Gazan side was captured by Israeli forces. The reopening was supposed to happen during the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas, which began in October. It will come as a relief to many Palestinians who see it as a lifeline to the world, although there is frustration that only small numbers of people and no goods will be allowed through. Israeli reports say only 50 patients, accompanied by 2 relatives, will be allowed to exit each day, and that 50 people who left Gaza during the war will be allowed to return. The crossing will be run by supervisors from the EU and local Palestinian staff, while Israel will carry out remote security checks. In December, the Israeli government said the Rafah crossing would open to allow Palestinians to leave Gaza, but Egypt said the crossing would only be opened if movement was allowed in both directions, enabling the return of around 30,000 displaced Palestinians who fled to Egypt or other countries during the war. The crossing's opening was delayed due to the Israeli government making it conditional on Hamas's handing over of the body of the last dead Israeli hostage in Gaza. Pakistani security forces have killed at least 145 fighters in the Balochistan province in a manhunt launched after a series of coordinated gun and bomb attacks that left nearly 50 people dead. The announcement came a day after the attacks, which began early on Saturday at multiple locations across southwestern Balochistan and left 31 civilians, including 5 women and 17 security personnel, dead.
We managed to kill 145 terrorists in 40 hours. This is the highest number since Pakistan is facing this war on terror.
The assault claimed by the banned separatist Balochistan Liberation Army BLA prompted authorities to impose months-long security restrictions on the province, banning public gatherings, demonstrations, and limiting traffic movement. The measure also banned the use of face coverings that conceal the identification of individuals in public places. It is said the number of fighters killed over the past 2 days was the highest in decades. Balochistan, which is also Pakistan's poorest province, has faced decades-long violence and separatist attacks by ethnic Baloch seeking greater autonomy and a larger share of the area's natural resources. The BLA regularly targets Pakistan's security forces and has attacked civilians, including Chinese nationals, who are among thousands working on various projects in the province. Nimatullah Rahes, like thousands of Afghans recently returned from Iran and Pakistan, has a new home in Bamiyan province, but life remains precarious. For many returnees like him, the promise of stability is undermined by a lack of basic services, including access to clean water, healthcare, and electricity. Humanitarian organizations report that while the Afghan government and international partners have constructed thousands of homes for returning families, infrastructure and public services have lagged behind. The situation highlights the challenges of the reintegration for returnees in provinces far from urban centers. Local authorities acknowledge the difficulties but cite limited resources and ongoing economic strain. Aid groups warn that without additional support, the gains of providing housing could be undermined by poor living conditions. The influx of returnees continues to strain Bamiyan's resources, illustrating the broader challenges facing Afghanistan as it shelters citizens displaced by regional instability. Hong Kong hosted an annual pet show with large numbers of visitors attending the final day to take advantage of discounted products and special offers. Exhibitors showcased a variety of pet-related goods including food accessories and technology designed for animal care. One featured product was an automatic cat litter box, which organizers say is the largest model available worldwide and is designed to assist pet owners who travel frequently. The device also provides general healthcare functions for cats, including promoting energy levels and self-healing capabilities. Visitors at the exhibition reported satisfaction with prices and variety. In addition to the trade exhibits, the Hong Kong Palace Museum organized a special ancient Egypt exhibition showcasing feline statues and mummies dating back to the 7th century BC. Organizers say the display highlights the historical relationship between humans and cats and aims to draw a connection between ancient and modern pet care practices. India's iconic comic book series Amar Chitra Katha continues to remain popular nearly 6 decades after its launch in 1967. The series, created to introduce children to Indian mythology, history, and folklore, has adapted to changing media consumption habits in the digital era. Amar Chitra Katha, which means immortal illustrated stories, has expanded beyond readers on smartphones, tablets, and other digital platforms. Despite the rise of streaming services and online entertainment, the coming series continues to attract young audiences and preserve interest in India's cultural heritage. Publishers say the series has updated its storytelling and artwork to appeal to contemporary readers while retaining its original mission of educating children about India's historical figures, legends, and religious traditions. It is noted that the Amar Chitra Katha's ability to adapt to modern technology and maintain its relevance highlights the continued demand for culturally rooted content in India's children's media market. China's Shenzhou 21 astronauts have steadily carried out in-orbit experiments, health monitoring, and maintenance tasks aboard the Tiangong space station over the past week, according to the China Manned Space Agency CMSA. The crew consists of mission commander Zhang Lu and astronauts Wu Fei and Zhang Hongzhang. They have spent over 3 months in orbit and are all in good condition. In the field of space medicine, the astronauts have been continuing work on a pharmacokinetics research project. By collecting saliva samples, which will be sent back to the Earth, they aim to support researchers in studying how medications behave in microgravity. The resulting data will help improve in-orbit drug use protocols for future missions. In terms of physical health, the crew participated in lower limb stimulation exercises while wearing biomimetic adhesive shoes. These exercises are designed to stimulate the flexor muscles of the legs under weightless conditions. Electromyography and muscle ultrasound data from the lower limb muscle groups were collected for further research. Cold water recreation activity is gaining popularity in Russia and has recently appeared in Moscow, where participants enter the icy waters of the Moscow River during winter months. The activity involves participants wearing insulated rescue wetsuits that allow them to float on the water's surface while maintaining the body warmth. Organizers say the equipment enables safe participation despite low water temperatures. Ice floating has been practiced for several years in northern regions of Russia, including the Murmansk region and Lake Baikal. This winter, the activity expanded to the Russian capital, where temperatures in January and February can fall to minus 20 degrees Celsius. According to organizers, the practice is promoted as a form of relaxation and stress relief. Sessions are conducted under supervision with safety measures in place. It is said the public interest has increased since the activity was introduced to Moscow this winter. Local officials have not reported any incidents related to ice floating activities in the Moscow River. A shrine in Japan's ancient capital of Kyoto has opened its renowned plum garden to the public, allowing visitors to admire blossoms. About 1,500 trees stand in the compound of Kitano Tenman-gu, The shrine is dedicated to the Japanese deity of learning, Sugawara no Michikane, who is said to have adored while he was alive more than 1,000 years ago. About 30% of the buds on trees of early blooming varieties in the garden have now blossomed. This year, visitors can enjoy the sight of plum trees decorated with lengths of sparkling crystal ornaments dangling from tree branches. The spatial installation is the work of a photographer and director, Ninagawa Mika, and other members of a creative team. The garden will remain open to the public through late May with the flowers lit up during the night. A local couple in their 30s who visited the shrine said they are looking forward to the nighttime illumination and that the garden will be much more enthralling once plum blossoms are in full bloom.
Golden, the inescapable hit from the movie K-pop Demon Hunters, has become the first ever K-pop song to win a Grammy Award. Performed by the fictional band Hunter X, it picked up Best Song for Visual Media as the awards ceremony got underway in Los Angeles. Released last June, K-pop Demon Hunters became Netflix's most viewed movie of all time with more than 480 million views. The propulsive soundtrack, full of candy-coated earworms, became the first to top the Billboard chart since 2022, when Disney's Encanto created a similar craze. Its success at the Grammys suggests a growing recognition of Korean pop's cultural and commercial force. Other early winners included British stars Youngblood, The Cure, and FKA Twigs, and 8-year-old Aura V became the youngest ever Grammy recipient for Best Children's Album. The premiere ceremony took place across the street from the main Grammy Awards at Los Angeles Peacock Theater. Ahead of the ceremony, Kendrick Lamar took home 3 awards, including Best Rap Song for TV Off, continuing his Grammys winning streak. 86 of the night's 95 prizes were handed out, covering most of the genre categories, including Best Country, Best Rap, and Best R&B. The first award of the event went to Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who picked up Best Pop Duo or Group Performance for their wicked duet Defying Gravity. British star Youngblood won Best Rock Performance for his live rendition of Black Sabbath's Changes, recorded during Ozzy Osbourne's farewell concert in Birmingham last year.
Thank you so much. I can't believe this.
Venice officially launched its 2026 carnival with the traditional opening parade along the Grand Canal, drawing large crowds to the city's historic waterways. The event featured the Pantagana, a large carnival rat symbol that traditionally marks the start of the festival, as it floated down the Grand Canal amid confetti. Dozens of decorated boats took part in the procession, with crews dressed in themed costumes. Participants represented a range of themes, including Olympic-inspired teams, pirates, science fiction characters, and traditional masked performers. Spectators gathered along the canal banks to watch the parade. The Venice Carnival is one of Italy's best-known annual festivals and typically attracts large numbers of domestic and international visitors. Organizers said they plan to maintain the festival's traditional elements while incorporating new themes and performances to engage younger audiences and international tourists. A reflection of biodiversity along with nature and culture. A view of the silver-like shining mountain range right before your eyes. A chronicle of the rituals and traditions of Kirati people from creation to civilization and the present day. A unique tourist trail in Nepal, filled with natural beauty, the Mundum Trail. Mundum Trail is a uniquely identified trekking route in Nepal, filled with natural beauty. The trail is an excellent tourist destination for trekkers who want to enjoy the culture and traditions of various ethnic groups while observing natural beauty. The Mundum Trail was identified as a new trekking route with the aim of promoting tourism in Khotang, Bhojpur, Sankhua Sabha and Solukhumbu regions of eastern Nepal. The specialty of the Mundum Trail is trekking while observing the tall mountain ranges, high hills and beautiful views of the flat plains of Tarai. Since it is connected to the culture of the Kirati people, this trail is named after the Mundum rites of Kirat Rise. Various structures reflecting the culture and traditions of the Kirat Rise built around the trail. Large grassy meadows and yaks and sheep herds raised by local herdsmen highlight the speciality of the trek. Dishes reflecting the identity of ethnic groups like Kirat Rai, Sherpa, Tamang and others, local organic food produced by herdsmen, various types of vegetation and precious herbs can be found during the Mundum trek. The trail is a total of 107 kilometers long. Both domestic and international visitors say the rivers originating from Mahabharat mountain range, forests covered in rhododendrons, rare and endangered wildlife and plants, and animal husbandry by hard-working farmers captivates their hearts. The Mundum Trail, where one can trek through the hills with the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, at its head, is a precious gift from nature. It's a trek where one can escape the heat of the Tarai, enjoy natural beauty, reveling in the sweet sounds of birds and connecting with endangered plants, making the experience all unique. As there is heavy snowfall in winter, the number of tourists trekking and playing in the snow along the Mundum Trail witnesses a surge every season. The Mundum Trail is connected to religion, culture, rituals and lifestyle of entire Kirat community. Mundum itself means the Kirat culture, rituals and the daily life of Kirati people or Kirat knowledge. And the concept of Mundum Trail is also about introducing the culture, lifestyle and history of the Kirati people to the world, familiarizing them with the community. The journey along the trail, which spreads through uphills and downhills, offers close-up views of more than 24 beautiful mountain ranges. That includes Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. They all delight every traveler. The Mundum trek starts from Dawa Bhanjang in Diktel, Sakaila rural municipality of Khotang, and Bhojpur Bazar in Bhojpur. Most tourists start their journey on this trail from Chakhewa Bhanjang in Temki Moying rural municipality, Bhojpur. The trek starting from Chakhewa Bhanjang is a gift of biodiversity, culture and nature. The trail is also a tourist area listed among the 100 must-visit destinations selected by the government of Nepal. Temki Dada is an excellent tourist destination near the starting point of the Mundum Trail. It lies on the border of Bhojpur and Khotang. It is located at an altitude of about 3,032 meters above sea level and is a flat plateau on top of a single hill. The history of Temki Dada is also linked to Kirati civilization. Temki Dada is a habitat for various species of trees like jamb, rhododendron and chimal, as well as endangered wildlife such as red panda, ghorol and thar. Various places in Koshi province can be clearly seen from Temki Dada. From here, one can have a panoramic view of dozens of mountain ranges, including the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, Makalu, Kanchenjunga, and Gauri Shankar. Apart from that, from Temke Dada, one can watch the sunrise and sunset. And when the weather is clear, one can even see the cities of Sikkim, Darjeeling, Kalimpong, Siliguri in India, and cities in Bhutan. The Kirati people perform special worship on full moons of Baisakh. In this area, precious herbs, locally called Chiraito, Majito, Thulo Okhete, Pakhanbed, Nagbeli, Ban Karela, Muse Karela, and Satua are found in abundance. Another major attraction of Temke Dada is the rhododendron. During blooming season, the forest in this area becomes vibrant red with fully bloomed flowers. After a hike and exploration of Temke Hill, surrounded by beautiful nature, one reaches Dhotre Deorali in about 6 hours. During the journey to Dhotre, trekkers enjoy nature's embrace, marvel at various rock formations, and relish the trek while connecting with the high hills. At Dhotre Deorali, there are arrangements for food and lodging for tourists. Leaving Dhotre and moving forward on the trek, various structures have been built targeting the culture and traditions of Kirati people to attract tourists. The Mundum Trail's construction began with a 35% investment from Koshi provincial government, 35% from Swiss government, and 30% from the local government. Along this entire trail, rest stops, drinking water taps, and stone platforms have been built for tourists. 15 ponds in the shape of a chindo, which is a traditional Rai vessel reflecting Kirat Rai culture, have also been constructed. This is a place where shamans have walked, a place of tantric power, and an extremely scenic area. Mundum is the name of a Kirat scripture. The trail is named after this sacred name. This trail, which integrates various aspects of Kirati civilization, culture, history, and life from Silichung to Mayung and then to Temke, and from Temke to Kualung and Tuachung, proceeds along the ridge of Mahabharat mountain range. Another special beauty of the Mundum Trail is Has Pokhari. Located at an altitude of 3,333 meters above sea level, Has Pokhari is a special destination that should not be missed during the trek. At the edge of Has Pokhari, a statue of Sumnima and Paruhang has been erected. According to Kirat Mundum, Sumnima and Paruhang are the creators of this universe. The gentle fragrance of various species of flowers blooming in the grassy meadows captivates every tourist visiting Has Pokhari. The rhododendrons that bloom in season in the Has Pokhari area make one feel like staying in the vicinity of the pond forever. During their journey to Has Pokhari, travelers can observe at least 16 species of rhododendrons that bloom during the spring season. Another important destination of the Mundum Trail is Mayung Dada. Located in Temke Mayung Rural Municipality of Bhojpur, Mayung Dada is a beautiful place with tourism potential. The journey to Mayung Dada, which is at an altitude of about 3,600 meters above sea level, takes place through the middle of a very smooth meadow. During this journey, any tourist with the melodious sound of music wishes to be immersed in the glory of beautiful nature, even if for a short while. The Mayung area is also a special observation point for horses. The attraction of horses roaming freely under the open sky is another unmissable feature of Mayung Dada. The Mayung area, which is connected to the neighboring district of Khotang, has a balanced climate, not as cold as the Himalayas, nor as hot as the Tarai. The Mayung area is also a habitat for the globally endangered red panda. During the Mayung journey, adorned with biodiversity and nature, one can enjoy the rhododendrons that bloom vibrantly across the hillsides in the spring. One can sit on various mystical hills and move forward with the cool breeze, mountain views, and by cherishing the natural beauty in their heart and soul. The blooming chap, rhododendron and sunakhari flowers in the months of Falgun, Chaitra and Baisakh captivate the hearts of tourists. The ever-changing weather and the view of the mountain range right before the eyes can make one feel a heavenly bliss on earth when one steps on Mayung Dada. From Mayung Dada, most of the hilly districts of eastern Nepal, as well as the high hill plains and villages of Nepal and India, look as if they are in the palm of one's hand, making one want to keep watching. When the crimson rays of early morning sun touch the mountains on the other side, the joy of kissing the heights is immeasurable. From Mayung Dada, one can also view more than 24 beautiful Himalayan peaks. This includes Charbate, Mera Peak, Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Lhotse Sar, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. Travelers say is less tiring and also does not give one altitude sickness. The trail located in the Mayung region is considered excellent, given the Laliguras trail of the TMJ region or the Tinjure, Milke, Jaljale area and the Khapta trail of the west. On the Mundum trek, after passing through Chakhewa Bhanjang, Mayung Dada has Pokhari, Satobato, Laure Bhir, Rawathap and Salpa Bhanjang. On the fourth day of the journey, one reaches the famous pilgrimage site Salpa Pokhari. Salpa Pokhari is situated at an altitude of 3,400 meters above sea level and is considered by the Kirati people as their ancestral place of origin. Kirati people hold a belief that one must visit Salpa Pokhari at least once in their lifetime. Hence, during Udholi and Ubholi full moons, many pilgrims visit Salpa Pokhari, a place filled with religious faith and natural beauty. Salpa Pokhari, known as the confluence of 4 districts, Khotang, Solukhumbu, Bhojpur and Sankhwa Sabha, is a place of natural beauty. Salpa Pokhari is located in Dobhani village of Salpa Silichung rural municipality in Bhojpur. It can be reached via the Mundum trail, passing through Dikdel in Khotang, Lal Kharkal and Mayung Dada. However, there are other routes to reach Salpa Pokhari as well. It is said that Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Edmund Hillary used the route through Salpa Pokhari during their first ascent of Mount Everest. Salpa Pokhari is also a multi-religious center of faith. As apart from Kiratis, various ethnic groups, including Hindus and Buddhists, hold fairs at this place 4 times a year. There is a religious belief that people who are born unable to speak can start speaking after being dipped in the waters of this pond, and childless couples are blessed with children after visiting Salpa Pokhari. Silichung Dada with Salpa Pokhari as its base camp is an important destination for tourists trekking the Mundum Trail. Tourists who reach Salpa often make a return trip to the summit of Silichung Dada, which stands at an altitude of 4,100 meters. Specially considered a significant center of religious faith for the Kirati people, from the Silichung Peak one can easily view the Himalayan range as well as the flat plains of the Tarai. From Silichung, 6 Himalayan peaks including Everest, Makalu, Kanchenjunga, Kumbhakarna and Mera Peak can be seen right before one's eyes. The Salpa Silichung Peak, the highest point in the religiously and touristically significant district of Bhojpur, is established as the tallest among Temkidada and Mayungdada. There is a popular belief that wishes are fulfilled after visiting and offering prayers at the peak of Silichung. Silichung Peak is located on the border of Bhojpur and Sangkhwa districts. It is useful not only for anchoring one's religious faith, but also for savoring the unique blend of nature and culture. From the peak of Silichung, one can directly see Salpa Pokhari to the south and the villages of Solukhumbu, Sangkhwa and Bhojpur. The valley and plains formed by the Arun River, which flows through Bhojpur and Sangkhwa can be easily viewed from this area. From Silichung, one can also enjoy panoramic views of the sunrise and sunset. At sunrise, a captivating view of mist in the Arun Valley can be seen from this spot. When the weather is clear, climbing Silichung Peak brings a feeling of heavenly bliss. The Silichung area is as naturally beautiful as it is culturally significant. In recent times, Kirat, Hindu, and Buddhist followers have come to regard Silichung Peak as a common pilgrimage site. A large number of shamans gather here during the full moons of Bhadra, Kartik, and Baisakh. Shamans in particular ascend Silichung to gain power and knowledge. The fragrance of the extremely aromatic bhairung, sunpati, and other fragrant herbs and flowers found around Silichung makes the stay there even more pleasant. There is a Mundum myth that Kirati people gain power from this area, envisioning it as the place where the world was created, starting from the hearth, the main pillar, the main door, the eaves, the flower garden, the resting place, and the final water source, while praying to their ancestors for divine power. Upon reaching this point, the Mundum trek can be considered complete for the time being. The Mundum Trail is an excellent destination for tourists who want to get close to the Himalayas and enjoy their beauty. The hundreds of types of flowers and birds seen during the Mundum trek make the journey even more interesting. The path is completely covered with the national flower rhododendron in various colors. Being a confluence of nature, culture, and Kirati civilization, tourists get to taste a sweet flavor during the Mundum trek. People of all age groups can undertake this trek. On both sides of the trail, the language, religion, rituals, and culture, as well as the lifestyle of 10 different Kirati-speaking Rai groups are vibrant. This region contains descriptions of the Kirati people from their creation to their civilization, their migration, various activities and rituals and traditions from birth to death. During this journey, one can truly feel a spiritual connection with their ancestors and with those who have passed. Locals have added new dimensions of tourism to the Mundum Trail. Along with homestays, one can also experience goat stays, which is staying in a herder's shed during the Mundum trek. Local herders warmly welcome the trekkers. This trail of indigenous civilization has recently emerged in the tourism world as a top cultural destination. Therefore, developing the Mundum Trail, an exceptional confluence of nature and culture, into a model destination, for recreation and study for both domestic and international visitors has become a pressing priority.
Music, dance,
Food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
Hom Bahadur Tamang, a gifted Thanka artist from the spiritual heart of Bodh, has turned his craft into a global bridge between tradition and business.
थाङ्का चाहिँ मैले 1970 सिक्न सुरुवात गरेको मेरो टिचर चाहिँ म भन्दा अघिल्लो मेरो दाइ हो साइला दाइ मेरो चाहिँ बाउपादेखि नै कलाकार हुनुहुन्थ्यो पाटन भक्तपुर छामेल दरबार स्क्वायरमा यस्तै पसल बेच्ने काम हुन्थ्यो अनि त्यो बेच्दा मैले यो थाङ्का चाहिँ विदेशीले किन्दो रहेछ आफैले विदेशसँग बेच्नुपर्छ भन्ने अलिकति मनमा मलाई अलिकति सोच आयो त्यसपछि मैले 2050 सालमा यहाँ सुरु गरेँ आजभन्दा 32 वर्ष अगाडि
What began as a young artist's journey through the streets of Kathmandu has blossomed into a thriving enterprise where sacred art meets business and tourism. With every brushstroke, Hom brings Nepal's rich spiritual heritage to the world, transforming Thanka painting into a symbol of cultural fusion.
त्यो बेला चाहिँ पसल कोही पनि यहाँ थिएन किनभने त्यो मार्केटले चाहिँ कहाँ मार्केट हुन्छ भन्ने खोज्दो रहेछ त्यो खोज्ने क्रममा म यहाँ आइपुग्यो विदेशीहरू पनि यहाँ त्यति अहिले जस्तो बस्दैन 5 मिनेट 10 मिनेटमा घुमेर जानुहुन्थ्यो त्यतिखेर खाने रेस्टुरेन्ट पनि एकजना मात्रै थियो एउटा मात्रै थियो अहिले चाहिँ होस् त्यो बेला र अहिलेमा धेरै आकाश जमिनको फरक भएको छ
His story is one of passion, innovation, and a deep commitment to preserving tradition while embracing the future.
विशेष गरी यो बौद्ध स्तूपसँग रिलेटेड छ यो बुद्धको शिक्षासँग रिलेटेड यो थाङ्का चाहिँ संसारको मानिसहरू यो स्तूपलाई घुम्ने क्रममा यो प्रार्थना गर्ने मेन आउने ठाउँ चाहिँ यो रहेछ त्यसो भएको हुनाले यो चाहिँ विशेष गरी ओल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा चाहिँ त्यो पनि के हो बुद्धिस्टको भएको हुनाले चाहिँ नेपालभरि कुनै थाङ्का बिक्ने ठाउँ चाहिँ अति महत्त्वपूर्ण चाहिँ यो नै हो वास्तवमा किनभने रिलेटेड छ यो बुद्धसँग
From the hills of Ramechhap to the heart of Bodh, Hom Bahadur Tamang has a glorious story to tell. A story of will, determination, struggle, and success.
आफै पनि रामसाप दुर्गम जिल्लामा जन्मेको चाहिँ रोजगार छैन त्यहाँ स्कुल छैन कलेज छैन हस्पिटल छैन रोजगार छैन त्यसपछि म पनि रोजगारकै क्रममा यहाँ आएर मैले सुरुवात गर्यो अहिले चाहिँ म लगभग 49 वर्ष भयो यही पेशा गरेर दाल भात खाएको अब नयाँ पुस्तालाई पनि मैले हस्तान्तरण गर्नुपर्छ है भन्ने मेरो एउटा उद्देश्यले चाहिँ अहिले मैले नयाँ पुस्तालाई चाहिँ गाउँबाट आउनुहुन्छ स्कुल सकेर अनि बिहान चाहिँ कलेज जानुहुन्छ दिउँसो काम छैन त्यस कारणले मैले 3 महिना फ्री ट्रेनिङ दिने गरेको छ उहाँको स्किल अनुसार टेस्ट गरेर हामीले यहीँ तलब दिएर जस्तो बिहान कलेज पनि भ्याए उसो कति हो त्यसो त्यहाँबाट एक्स्ट्रा टाइम चाहिँ 5 घण्टा 6 घण्टा 7 घण्टा मैले पनि यहाँ जीवन चलाउने चाहिँ काम भइरहेको छ अहिले
For 49 years, he painted, taught, and empowered young artisans. Today, his school preserves tradition and creates futures.
हामीले यहाँ सुरुमा इन्टरभ्यु लिन्छु त्यसपछि एक हप्ता चाहिँ नि सानो क्यानभासमा हात ट्रेनिङ दिन्छु त्यसको शरीरको बडीहरू अलिकति ट्रेनिङ दिन्छु अनि एक हप्तापछि ओके भनेर ओके यस भने कोही मानिस नसक्ने चाहिँ नि आधा घण्टामा 1 घण्टामा उठेर गइहाल्छ म सक्दैन ढाड दुख्यो किन उसको मन धेरै भएर गयो त्यो सक्दैन ऊ आउँदैन एक दिन पनि आउँदैन मात्रै आँखा चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो हामीले अपाङ्गलाई पनि सिकाएको छ, जस्तो बाहिर कान नसुन्ने पनि सिकाएको छ, आँखा चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो, त्यस्तै हो।
As interest in Buddhism grows worldwide, so does the appreciation for our sacred art. Foreigners now come not just to admire but to learn, studying our architecture techniques and meditative Thanka traditions, giving new life to what was once known only within our borders.
बुद्ध नेपाल हो। नेपालमा जति छन् विश्व सम्पदामा सूचीमा भएको मठ मन्दिर गुम्बद छ, यसैबाट उहाँले पनि सिकेको वास्तवमा। यो जुन बौद्ध स्तूपरा भनौँ लुम्बिनी, त्यो जस्तो त उहाँहरूले बनाउन सक्दैन। तर यसको चाहिँ एकदम महत्त्वपूर्ण के छ भन्न या चाहिँ दोस्रो तेस्रो बुद्धको रिलेटिक यहाँ छ। जति चाहिँ अहिले संसारमा यो बुद्धिज्म फैलिँदै जान्छ, यो महायान बुद्धिज्म त्यत्तिकै ठाङ्गको भ्यालु चाहिँ बढ्दैछ अहिले। जस्तो मेरै कुरा हो, मैले 40-45 वर्ष यति ठाङ्गको महत्त्व थिएन, किनभने वर्ल्ड वाइडमा बुद्धिज्ममा थिएन, विदेशीहरूले जानेकै थिएन। उनीहरूले त्यो सुरसुर आउँदाखेरि सानो तिनी एउटा नेपाल आउँदाखेरि सुपर किन नलैजाऊ भन्ने मान्दै लान्थ्यो। अहिले चाहिँ उहाँहरू चाहिँ जस्तो अमेरिका, युरोप, तपाईँको यो सिङ्गापुर, ताइवान, मलेसिया, विभिन्न देशमा चाहिँ अहिले बुद्धिस्ट प्र्याक्टिसनर धेरै उहाँहरू चाहिँ गर्नुहुन्छ। त्यसको लागि चाहिँ एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ। त्यस कारणले भविष्यमा यो थाङ्गा चाहिँ छ, यसको मार्केट छ।
As an artist, entrepreneur, and a master, he feels fulfilled, creating beauty, guiding others, and living with purpose.
मैले संसार जीवन जगतलाई थाहा पायो। अहिले हामी सांसारिक जीवन छ, सांसारिक जीवनमा कसरी जिउने र अर्कोलाई पनि कसरी जिउन दिने कला थाहा पायो। त्यसपछि अब जुन देशमा जन्मे पनि, जुन कुलमा जन्मे पनि 100% निश्चित के हो भने मृत्यु छ। त्यो त निश्चित हो नि, एउटै निश्चित छैन, कहिले पनि निश्चित छैन। तर त्यो मर्नेमा म कसरी मर्ने भन्ने कला पनि थाहा पाएँ मैले। मलाई त धेरै परिवर्तन भएको छ। मैले परिवर्तन भयो भने के हुन्छ, मैले ठुलो पत्यारो चढ्यो, ठुलो गाडी त्यस्तो होइन, तर मलाई खुसी छ। सादा दाल भात खान पाएछ, मैले परिवार पाल्नु पाएछ। यही थाङ्गाले म जापान घुम्यो, युरोप गयो, चाइना घुम्यो, बुद्धिस्ट कन्ट्री सबै घुमेको छ। सबै ठाउँमा मैले घुम्नलाई मलाई पैसाको आपत पनि परेन। थाङ्गा सँगसँगै लाँदै ब्रिफिङ गर्दै बेच्दै दर्शन बेचेको हो। त्यस कारण मलाई त एकदम खुसी छु म त पनि।
"35 of us are in this bus that is transporting us to the aircraft from the waiting lounge of the Trivandrum International Airport's domestic terminal. All, of course, look busy, up to something. The bus starts to move, and within minutes we reach the aircraft at the taxi bay. We start boarding the aircraft one by one, to the warm welcome of the air hostess. The aircraft looks fully boarded for the flight to Chandragadi Airport of Jhapa. However, our final destination is the famous Pathivara temple in Taplejung district.
After nearly an hour's flight, we land at Chandragarhi Airport, trying to breathe fresh air and adjust ourselves. Our camera crew takes the opportunity to capture some unique local artifacts seen at the airport. As we wait for our vehicle outside, we have time to see the local lifestyle. Soon our vehicle arrives and we set for our main destination, Pathivara of Taplejung. Within 15 minutes, we reach Charali, a major junction with Kakarvita towards the east, Ilam towards the north. We're trying to engage in the sights and sound of the Tarai. We head north towards Ilam, a natural paradise known for its agro-producers. The sheer pleasure of traveling in this natural paradise, crossing through settlements and jungles along the hilly road, reaches its climax when we arrive at the famous tea garden of Kanyam. No wonder Kanyam, our tourist hub with a perfect blend of natural beauty and economic activities, attracts us like a magnet. But our destination is still far away. We have to reach Taplejung at any cost today. After another 1.5 hours, we arrive at district headquarters of Ilam. It's a weekend day, Saturday, and the main market area is quiet. The very short time we spent enjoying the beauty of Ilam Bazaar was not enough, but we had to move on. It was almost dusk when we reached the highest point along the Mechi Highway, Rake Bazaar, along the border of Ilam and Pastar districts. A beautiful small hamlet known for its local producers. Rake is pretty windy, maybe because of its height, and we all feel a bit cold. However, this does not stop us from enjoying the local specialities. Our team moves on knowing that if we do not reach Taplejung today itself, our entire itinerary will suffer. It's dark now, and we are still on the roads, still at some distance. We cross the Fidin Bazaar, district headquarters of Pastar, but cannot see it properly as it was already dark. However, how can one forget the beautiful Fidin Bazaar and its red soil? Our caravan moves on irrespective of the time, and we are determined to reach Taplejung today at any cost. It was 11 p.m. when we reached Phungling Bazaar, the district headquarters of Taplejung. Early in the morning, the next day, once again we start our journey to the revered shrine. We were aware that a regional fair was taking place in Taplejung. The bazaar area has been decorated like a bride. There seems to be a competition among the locals in every nooks and corners of the city to decorate their place as the best. A large fair is going on at the open field with numerous cultural pageantries. The whole area is scenic and lively. However, we left Phungling Bazaar early with a promise to enjoy the place when we return from Pathivara. After nearly an hour's ride along the gravelled road, we arrive at Kafle Pati. This is the last destination till which we can have a ride. Now all on foot till we reach Pathivara. We are exploring Kafle Pati and the beautiful hill of Manavara behind Pathivara in the early morning sunlight. That hill is called Manavara, meaning a filled mano, or an ancient device to weigh grains, for its sheer resemblance. It looks a difficult place to reach. Thankfully, we have no intention of going there either. A few travelers apart from our team are also with us. The uphill climb for about 5 hours is waiting for us now. Long winding steps of rock lead us to the temple. The uphill walk of the stairs takes more than half an hour to reach Baldana. It's a small hamlet and resting place for travelers. We meet a group of youths who are returning from the temple. these jolly youths with guitar seem to have enjoyed a very musical trip to the temple. You also enjoy their music for some time. One of the many ways to forget our fatigue. After the brief musical break, our journey moves on. We haven't seen snow till now, but meet plenty of devotees already returning from the temple. Either they had left for the temple pretty early in the morning, or they must have stayed at Tulofedi, which is near the temple itself. The symmetrical steps and the rhododendron trees awaiting spring. Away from the hustle and bustle and pollution of the town, Pathivara is a serene and virgin destination. We try to listen to the experience of some of the devotees despite our fatigue. In a short while, we reach Tulofedi, the last bazaar and major human settlement before we reach Pathivara temple. Many travelers lodge at this place that also has a few hotels. For the first time, we see light rain and a bit of snow at this altitude. This beautiful bazaar has its own beauty as well as sorrow. This is a small trade center and lodging place for travelers.
अब कोही झापा कोही काठमाडौँ कोही अब उता अमेरिका कोही त्यस्तै युकेहरु अब यतै नेपालको मान्छे नि हो आउने त
ए त्यसरी हुन्छ
हजुर
तपाईले टेन्ट पनि राख्नु भएको छ नि
टेन्ट राखेको
किन राख्नु भयो
टेन्ट अब रुम हाम्रो थोरै छ त्यही भएर टेन्ट राखेको हो टेन्टमा पनि यसो सितम भनेर
After a warm cup of tea in the cold weather, we resume our uphill walk to the temple. We see a huge copper gate made of all the copper utensils offered at the temple. Whoever are the lucky ones to have their offerings in the gate, it definitely welcomes the devotees first. A few meters away comes the temple of Kanchi Mata, or the youngest mother. Kanchi Mata is believed to be the youngest sister of Pathivara deity. We stop for some time at the temple, heavily covered by snow. Probably the most adventurous journey in the whole trek begins from here in the snow-white jungle. The trees have bloomed in white snow. The path is covered by snow, and the travelers of all age group marching ahead with equal enthusiasm. Every traveler is carrying something to eat like roasted corn, grams, and ginger to minimize the risk of altitude sickness, as the uphill walk leads to higher elevation. Chances of losing foot grip in the snow are very high without a walking stick. Walking sticks are provided free of cost by the hotels, given that you promise to return them. The people here are very helpful. Despite the stony steps to climb, they are fully covered in snow. We continue our enjoyable journey forward, sometimes losing our foot grip and trying to forget our fatigue. It took us around 4 hours to reach the temple premises. The gate welcomes us a bit ahead. There are a few structures built here for those who want to make an overnight stop. Only the structures offer shelter, and the travelers have to manage the rest themselves. These hanging bells welcome as we enter the temple premises through the main gate. Inside the temple premises, one feels as if this is the capital of a pristine natural paradise. We start capturing the temple and its surroundings in our camera. It is Sunday, and maybe because of the snow factor as well, we do not see many people in the temple. Otherwise, even the security personnel deployed here struggle to manage the throng of devotees especially on Saturdays. The idol of deity Parthivara has been kept under the open sky due to the belief that it cannot be kept inside any structure. Divine, amazing, and attractive temple of deity Parthivara. The legend of the deity is really impressive. Even small natural artifacts, otherwise not notable, create great impressions in our memory during trips like this. How can we be ignorant to the fact that health and fitness is of paramount importance during such trips? So we take some rest in a nearby place and start munching the roasted corn so as not to keep our stomachs empty. Hunger can easily lead to altitude sickness at such elevation. People offer copper utensils including oil-fed lamps, tridents, with the belief that their wishes would be fulfilled. We also noticed devotees offering prayers at the never-extinguished flame at the temple. There is a huge cliff at the backside of the idol and big plain area towards the front side. The temples of other gods and goddesses in the premises look as if a divine army is guarding the deity. Popular belief is that paying homage at the temple fulfills all wishes, including children, peace, or prosperity. Sadly, we were deprived of the opportunity to enjoy the natural beauty of the surrounding due to inclement weather. However, we thoroughly enjoyed the snowfall. Every devotee seems happy and content for being able to pay homage here.
एकदमै राम्रो रहेछ तर बाटो चाहिँ अलि चिप्लो चिप्लो रहेछ हिउँ परेको कारणले तर राम्रै लाग्यो एकदम जोस रमाइलो रहेछ
यहाँ आउन चाहिँ मलाई धेरै वर्षदेखि मन थियो बट कहिले सोचेको थिएन कि म यहाँ आउन सक्छु आज आउने मौका पायो सारै खुसी लागेछ
अद्भुत अनुभव भएको छ मलाई र आज मैले यो लगभग 4-5 घण्टाको जो यात्रा हामी तलबाट गरेका छौं हुन त हिउँ पनि परिरहेछ हिउँ पर्या थियो हिउँ पर्या हुनाले अलिकति सम्लेर आयौं हामी तर अत्यन्त नै त्यस्तो केही छैन बाटोमा एउटा राम्रो तरिकाको एउटा अनुभव भएर हामी पुग्यौं माताको दर्शन भयो
It's really an ill attempt to travel to Parthivara during winter as the whole area gets blanketed by snow. But only those who dare know the sheer pleasure. It cannot be expressed in words. Apart from the question that how the place would look without snow, nothing can be as pleasing as reaching there in winter. Just for reference, this is how it looks without snow.
Nepal's president calls on Japanese investors to boost bilateral trade, says legal reforms and luminary development offer opportunities for investors. Spain opens residency path for undocumented migrants. Hundreds of Nepali youth struggle amid embassy passport delays. Authorities heighten screening at Nepal's border areas amid Nipah virus threat. Travelers screened at key borders to prevent spread. Election Commission to not shift poll centres despite empty villages. Seasonal migration leaves high-altitude districts vacant ahead of elections. Palestinians start entering Rafah border after 1.5 years. No goods to be allowed through in the deal, part of the US ceasefire plan. And Nepal secures its first win in SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara, defeats Bhutan 2-1 to record opening victory. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has called on the Japanese business community to invest in Nepal. Addressing an interactive program in Tokyo today, he said Nepal offers a favorable and secure investment environment. President Paudel said the government is committed to providing full support to Japanese investors. The president said Nepal has opened most sectors, including in agriculture, hydropower and tourism, to foreign investment and introduced policy and legal reforms. The president also addressed a special ceremony in Tokyo, and he said Nepal has introduced legal and institutional reforms to attract foreign investment. The program was organized to mark the 70th anniversary of Nepal-Japan diplomatic relations. As Spain opens a pathway to permanent residency for undocumented immigrants, hundreds of Nepali youth are left in limbo due to delays in obtaining passports from their embassy. Many visit the Nepali embassy in Madrid daily, but limited services, passport tokens issued only on Fridays, have created a growing backlog. Without valid passports, thousands risk missing the residency process. Nepali community leaders, including NRN Spain officials and local activists, are urging the government to expand passport services, allow multiple applications at once, and deploy mobile teams to assist applicants. The Ministry of Health and Population has urged people to stay alert amid the Nipah virus outbreak in neighboring India, though the risk in Nepal is considered low. Health facilities have been instructed to follow preparedness measures, including tracking and response protocols. Officials advise precautionary steps like washing fruits thoroughly, cooking vegetables properly, drinking boiled water, keeping farms clean, wearing gloves and masks when handling meat, and practicing hand hygiene. The virus can spread through contaminated fruits, close contact with infected animals or humans, and exposure to pigs. Anyone showing symptoms such as fever, headache, cough or breathing difficulties should immediately contact the nearest health facility or call 1115 according to the ministry. More on this on our issue of the day later. Nepal's Election Commission has announced it will not set up alternative polling centres despite seasonal migration leaving many high-altitude Himalayan villages empty. In districts like Darchula, Humla, Dolpa, Manang and Mustang, residents move to lower areas during winter to escape heavy snow and freezing temperatures. Some local election offices have shifted polling centres to district headquarters, but many villages remain completely vacant. The Commission considers this seasonal migration routine and says elections will proceed as scheduled even in the most remote settlements. More on this on our cover story later in the bulletin. Moving on, Palestinians have started to enter Rafah border crossing between Gaza Strip and Egypt after it reopened for the movement of people. The crossing has been largely been closed since May 2024, when the Gazan side was captured by Israeli forces. The reopening was supposed to happen during the first phase of US President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas, which began in October. But Israel blocked it until the return of the body of the last Israeli hostage in Gaza, which happened last week. It will come as a relief to many Palestinians who see it as a lifeline to the world, although there is frustration that only small numbers of people and no goods will be allowed through. Nepal has won in its second match in the SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara. In the second match, Nepal secured a 2-1 victory over Bhutan at Pokhara International Football Stadium. Srijana Baduwal gave Nepal the lead in 36 minutes of the first half, and Pranjita Rai doubled the advantage in the 79th minute of the second half. Srijana Baduwal was named Player of the Match for her performance. Earlier, Nepal had lost their opening match against India 1-0. Bhutan, in turn, suffered a heavy 12-0 defeat against Bangladesh in the tournament opener. Meanwhile, Bangladesh won its first match under the SAF Women's Under-19 Championship held at Pokhara International Football Stadium today. Bangladesh defeated India 2-0 with both goals in the first half. Nepal's Prime Minister delivered her first ever address to the National Assembly, promising free and fair elections. While in Nepal's high Himalayas, entire villages sit empty as polls approach and officials rule out alternative voting centers. That's our cover story after this break. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Welcome back. Time now for our cover story of the day. Prime Minister Sushila Karki addressed a meeting of the National Assembly today, the first address to the upper house session. During her maiden address to the National Assembly, the Prime Minister of the election government expressed confidence that the upcoming election would be conducted in an impartial, fair and calm environment on the scheduled date of March 5.
परिवर्तनकामी भूमिका युवाको आग्रह राजनीतिक दलहरू र सम्माननीय राष्ट्रपतिज्यूसँगको छलफलका आधारमा विषम परिस्थितिमा मैले प्रधानमन्त्रीको जिम्मेवारी लिएकी हुँ। सम्माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, भदौ 23 र 24 गते जेनजी युवाहरूको नेतृत्वमा भएको विद्रोह, हाम्रा शासकहरूमा युवा आकांक्षाको व्यवस्था, मुलुकमा व्याप्त भ्रष्टाचार, राज्य सञ्चालनमा देखिएको संवेदनहीनता विरुद्धको चेतनाको प्रतिबिम्ब थियो। संविधानको मर्म र भावना बमोजिम सुशासन, समृद्धि र विकासको क्षेत्रमा भएका कमी कमजोरी र त्यसबाट सृजित असन्तोष, अभाव वा उपेक्षाको कारणले यस आन्दोलनको जन्म भएको कुरालाई हामीले स्वीकार गर्नुपर्दछ।
Now, as Nepal prepares for elections, entire high-altitude Himalayan villages in districts like Darchula, Humla, Dolpa, Manang and Mustang stand empty due to seasonal migration. The Election Commission, however, has ruled out setting up alternative polling centres. Shivani Thapa, along with Saloja Dahal, takes a look.
Due to snowfall and extreme cold, most residents of high Himalayan areas of Nepal have already descended to lower regions to escape the winter. In areas with permanent settlements, the Election Commission has reported that no temporary polling stations have been arranged, even though voters are absent from their home villages. In Darchula, entire residents from the Changru and Tinker areas had already moved to the district headquarters Khalanga during the first week of Mangsir, that's around mid-November. After the onset of snow, they left their homes and are expected to return only by the last week of Baishak, that's around mid-April. With voters relocated to the district headquarters, the election office has already decided to shift 2 polling centers from Darchula to Khalanga. This situation is not limited to Darchula. Upper regions of Manang, Mustang, Humla and Dolpa districts are also largely empty. In Dolpo, a petition was submitted to the Election Commission noting that apart from the village officials, no citizens remain in the villages of Buddha and Shefok Sondo rural municipality. Similarly, in Humla's northern Namkha rural municipality, all 3 settlements in Limika are completely deserted. Travel in Nyalu Lake and Nara Lake villages has been halted due to heavy snowfall. As permanent residents have left, some local governments have requested the Election Commission to set up temporary polling stations. However, the Commission stated that the election process would not face significant difficulties and has not yet taken any steps to establish temporary voting centers. Despite the challenges of managing elections in deserted high Himalayan areas, the Commission is treating the situation as part of normal procedures and is moving forward with the electoral process.
That was our cover story of the day. We're going for a short break here. After the break, we'll look at how and why Nipah virus outbreak has highlighted a growing pattern where diseases jump from animals to humans as natural habitats shrink and human-wildlife contact increases. That's our issue of the day. Stay with us. Welcome back to News Hour here on NTV World. Time now for issue of the day. Following reports of Nipah virus infections in neighboring India, Nepal has heightened vigilance, particularly in its western side. In Sudar Pashchim provinces Kailali, border points including Gaurifata, Gadda Chowki and Sati now have health desks, and travelers showing symptoms such as fever, headache or respiratory issues are being screened and isolated if needed. The virus, primarily found in fruit bats and pigs, poses a risk of transmission from animals to humans and between humans, prompting strict monitoring. Government hospitals have set up separate treatment wards and isolation facilities, and female community health volunteers are spreading awareness at the village level. Open borders with India make districts like Kailali and Kanchanpur in western Nepal especially vulnerable, necessitating ongoing precautionary measures. Nepal is on alert following recent Nipah virus cases in India's western Bengal. While the disease itself is rare, experts say outbreaks like this point to a broader pattern. Viral infections from animals are appearing more frequently, often linked to how humans interact with the environment. Smithu Kising Tamang digs deeper.
Nipah virus, carried naturally by fruit bats, can cause severe illness in humans if it spills over from wildlife or contaminated food. The recent outbreak in India underscores that animal-borne diseases know no borders. For scientists, Nipah is more than a single outbreak. It raises a larger question: why are animal-to-human spillovers becoming more frequent? South and Southeast Asia have seen multiple viral outbreaks in recent decades: Nipah, SARS, MERS, avian influenza, and dengue, among others. Research shows that over 70% of emerging infectious diseases originate in animals, often occurring where humans and wildlife live in close proximity, not only from animals to humans, but also vice versa. Patterns suggest that while viruses themselves exist naturally, changes in human activity like deforestation, urban expansion, intensive agriculture are increasing contact with wildlife, making spillovers and spillbacks more frequent.
In the case of spillover, there is always like a different prospect of the spillover. Human-wildlife conflict caused by the anthropogenic pressure is one of the cause of the spillover. In my opinion, it, like a global warming, the temperature increases also the potential for the vector dynamics change is also the one of the factor for the viral spillover, and that caused the outbreaks and pandemics.
Climate change doesn't create viruses, but it amplifies the risk of spillovers and spillbacks. Rising temperatures, unpredictable rainfall, and extreme weather events can stress ecosystems, alter wildlife migration, and push animals closer to human populations. In South Asia, where communities are dense and forest dependent, these environmental pressures intersect with deforestation and urban expansion, creating conditions for viral outbreaks to occur more frequently than in previous decades.
If we do not conserve the environment or protect the like a biodiversity, so of course there will be a lot of like outbreaks. Like some of the pathogenic bacteria are very deadly and very pathogenic, so it can cause like a very devastating pandemics in future. So we need to protect the ecological parameter. We need to respect all the species, and then we need to mutually live with them. So that is the thing. Otherwise there will be like a devastating outbreaks and then pandemic situation in Nepal.
The pattern of emerging diseases in South and Southeast Asia shows that environmental changes, urban growth, and climate variability are creating new interfaces for viruses to move from animals to people. Understanding these links is crucial not to cause alarm, but to rethink how human activity and environmental stewardship intersect in an era of climate change. The rise in viral outbreaks shows that in a changing climate, human activity and environmental disruption are no longer separate. What affects nature ultimately affects us all. Sumitu Kiseng Tamang with camera person Samir Thapa reporting for NTV World.
The recent rise in Nipah virus cases across the border is serving as a new reminder of how closely our health is linked to the environment. Experts say the threat isn't just medical, it's ecological. They're calling for a dual approach, clinical caution and balanced human-wildlife interactions. Diksha Awasthi explores more.
Rising cases of neighboring India has become a case of serious concern among Nepali people. Owing to the long open border, every communicable health crisis in India raises an alarm in Nepal. Following the COVID crisis, the new threat that looms large is the Nipah virus. Health authorities remain on alert over the Nipah virus spillover, a fatal example of what happens when the lines between wildlife and human life blur. With no proven treatment and high fatality rate, the immediate focus is on early supportive care and community awareness.
हाम्रा सीमा नाकामा भएका हेल्थ डेस्कहरूलाई ओरिएन्टेसन गर्ने र उनीहरूलाई त्यस नाकाबाट आउटजात गर्नेलाई शंकास्पद लक्षण छन् भने निगरानीमा राख्ने काम चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ सुरु गरिरहेका छौं। त्यसैगरी हामीसँग अस्पतालहरुमा पनि कुनै कारणवश शंकास्पद त्यस्ता लक्षणहरू आए भने ती उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ ट्रिटमेन्टको व्यवस्था गर्न र आवश्यक सरसामानको व्यवस्था गर्न पनि निर्देशन दिइसकेका छौं र आइसोलेसनको जरुरत पर्ने भावनाले कोभिडमा प्रयोग गरेका जुन अस्पताल थिए उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ आइसोलेसन बेडको लागि पनि त्यही अनुसार तयारी गर्नुस् भनेर भनिसकेका छौं।
But Nipah is not an isolated event. It is a symptom of a planet in flux. Conservationists say as we push deeper into the wild is pushing back. Experts say this outbreak is the cause of spillover and spillback both. Means bacteria transmits from wildlife to humans, while it's also the other way around. Monitoring our climate and respecting wildlife boundaries are now our first lines of defense against the next pandemic. Health practitioners say staying safe in this new reality requires more than just clinical caution. Washing hands, sanitization practices, hygienic and healthy lifestyle have become basic rules. Biologists warn it demands a dual commitment to personal health and environmental stewardship, of which avoiding encroachment of habitats, following safe protocols, building buffers at common food sources or areas, and reducing waste are crucial. Our strongest defense is the wisdom to coexist with the wildlife before the next spillover begins.
That was our issue of the day. In other stories, Nepali youth in Spain face delays in getting passports just as the country opens a residency pathway for undocumented migrants. Community leaders urge Nepal to expand passport services to meet the deadline. Aprila Kising Lama, along with Pawan Barsha Shah, takes a look.
As Spain opens the door to permanent residency for undocumented immigrants, hundreds of Nepali youth living in the country are left in limbo due to delays in obtaining passports from their embassy. Many visit the Nepali embassy in Madrid daily, hoping to secure new passports, but most return disappointed. The Spanish government recently announced a legal pathway for undocumented migrants, allowing them to regularize their status starting this April. Thousands of Nepalis who reach Spain via various countries are anxious that without a valid passport, they will be unable to participate in the residency process. Nepali youth fear complications using old passports or other documents, prompting a surge of applications at the embassy. However, the embassy currently issues passport tokens only on Fridays, creating a backlog and leaving many without valid identification. Some applicants have traveled to Spain at personal cost and now risk missing the legacy residency window.
स्पेन को पासपोर्ट को समस्या को बारेमा मन्त्रालय जानकार छ। यसको उचित समाधानका लागि जुन विकल्पहरू छन् त्यो विकल्पमा हामीले छलफल र समन्वय अगाडि बढाइसकेका छौं र यो समस्या छिट्टै समाधान हुने गरी काम भइरहेको छ।
Representatives from the Nepali community, including Anaran Spain officials, social activists, and local organizations, have urged the Nepal government to expand passport services, allow multiple applications at once, and deploy mobile passport teams to assist applicants.
एक्ज्याक्ट तपाईहरुले डाटा ओपन फर्म खोल्दिनुस् नेपालबाटै बार्सिलोना स्पेनको मान्छेले स्पेनबाट चुज गर्ने अथवा त्यसरी चाहिँ त्यो लिमिटेसन नराख्दिनुस् 2 मिनेटमा 300 सक्ने लिमिट ओपन फर्म खोल्दिनुस्। फर्म भरिसकेपछि तपाईलाई बार्सिलोनाबाट कति भर्यो, कोस्टा ब्लाङ्काबाट कति भर्यो, बिल्बाबाट कति भर्यो, माड्रिडबाट कति भर्यो सबै तपाईहरुसँग डाटा आइपुग्छ। त्यहाँबाट शेड्युल बनाउनुस्। डाटा आएपछि कुन ठाउँमा कति जना मान्छे खटाउनु पर्छ, कुन ठाउँमा कहिले टोल जानु पर्छ र कहिले हामीले फिंगर लिएको पासपोर्ट कहिले नेपालबाट डेलिभरी दिन सकिन्छ। हाम्रो माग के हो भने अप्रिलको 1 गते भन्दा अगाडि हरेक नेपालीको हातमा पासपोर्ट यहाँ आइपुग्नु पर्छ।
Currently, hundreds of Nepali youth reach Spain via countries like Croatia and Poland. Without valid documents, they manage by working low-wage jobs in restaurants and delivery services, borrowing money from home just to survive.
Now, yoga is no longer just a practice for wellness, rather becoming a competitive sport. The 7th National Yogasana Sports Championship in Kathmandu saw 246 athletes from across Nepal showcase their skills, competing for top honors like Mr. Yogi and Miss Yogi. Shiva Prasad Upriti explores more.
How have you perceived yoga? Is it just a tool to maintain your physical and mental well-being? Think again. It is not just limited to a traditional tool for well-being, as it also has shifted into a competitive sport. Yoga athletes are now competing to secure medals from national and international competitions. National Yogasana Championship, being organized for the 7th edition in the federal capital Kathmandu, speaks of the growing popularity of yoga as sports. A total of 246 yoga sports players from across the country participated in the event.
We need to do such types of championship to develop our physical health, mental health, spiritual health, as well as it is also necessary to do these types of championship to express our internal capacity, to express our physical capacity, and to show this world what we are. And
the Yogasana Championship featured various age groups ranging from sub-junior to senior levels, from 10 years to above 55 years. Players were judged on different postures based on 5 groups of Yogasana: forward bending, backward bending, body twist, hand balance, and leg balance. Artistic Yogasana was the major attraction of the championship. Roshan Bista from Kanchanpur became the first Yogasana sports player to secure a hat-trick by winning the title as Mr. Yogi. Sonam Yangmo Tamang was crowned Miss Yogini 2026.
Being an international yoga player myself, I really feel that this type of competition is very crucial for Nepal to represent this country in international stage and to increase confidence of players.
Nepal has not only organized international yoga championship, but also has secured positions with gold medals in global events. Organizing this type of Yogasan championship attracts youth and encourages them to adopt science-backed traditional tool, yoga, as to maintain their health, happiness, well-being, and mental peace. SP Upreti reporting for NTV World.
And in this context, today in our Public Pulse segment, the participants shared their views on why events like these matter. Let's take a look.
I think 15 years ago, Yoga Sports Championship began to form USA, America, and then in Nepal also we started in Nepal first Yoga Sports Championship. And now we are doing and starting and 7th National Yoga Sports Championship.
एउटा त मान्छेले आत्ममनोबल बढ्छ र अर्को कुरो गेमले गर्दाखेरि बच्चामा व्यक्तित्व विकासको लागि र अन्य कुरालाई नि यसले फाइदा पुर्याउँछ साथै कुनै पनि खेल खेलेर चाहिँ विद्यालय स्तरीय जिल्ला स्तरीय र नेशनल स्तरीय हुँदै वर्ल्ड च्याम्पियनशिप अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय स्तरसम्म जाने हुनाले विद्यार्थीको भविष्य राम्रो उसले खेलप्रति राम्रो भएको हुनाले यो अत्यन्त आवश्यक छ.
It protects health physically, mentally, socially, culturally.
This type of national championship helps us to practice at home and be more enthusiastic at this type of activities, and this also helps us our health, mental health, and the active participation.
All the students who are participating in these competitions will be motivated for other events also. It is a pride of a nation that we are doing such a type of organization.
Yogasana is not just only for physical fitness. It improves our physical, mental balance.
The motto of Yogasana Champions is to balance our soul, body, mind through the playing of Yogasana.
Yoga helping our benefit of life in health and physical exercise. If we do yoga, we don't need to go for gym.
This championship provides platform to all these athletes to represent the country on the world stage.
Yoga sports competition is essential. It should be promoted to Olympic level also.
Yoga for career opportunity, and it promotes cultural and spiritual science.
Moving on, tens of thousands of Nepalese are leaving the country each month in search of work. As labour migration accelerates, women in rural villages are being left to shoulder the full responsibility of households, communities and local development. Bijeta Bhandari, along with Himal Neupani, brings the story of Syangja.
Nepal continues to witness a steady rise in labour migration as employment opportunities within the country remain limited. According to the Department of Foreign Employment, between mid-December 2025 and mid-January 2026 alone, 55,541 men and 7,018 women received labour permit approvals under unskilled, skilled, professional and highly skilled categories. This growing out-migration has not only emptied villages of youth, but has also significantly increased the social and economic burden on women. From farming and family management to development work and social leadership, women in the hinterlands of Nepal have no choice but to roll up their own sleeves. A clear example of this changing reality can be seen in Tallo Satigar village of Waling 6 in Syangja district. Daily household chores, agricultural work, community development, development and social administration are now largely handled by women. Despite the common belief that women's participation in social, economic and political sectors is limited, Tollo Satighar has shown that a village can function and move forward through women's leadership alone. With a situation resembling one house, one abroad, the village is now home mainly to women and elderly residents, leaving women to address every challenge that arises.
श्रीमान नहुँदा घर परिवार चलाउँदा एकदम गाह्रो हुन्छ किनकि अब भैँसी फुक्दा पनि बानी मान्छे पनि हुनुहुन्न अब त्यस्तै हो व्यवहार पनि चलाउनु पर्यो.
From working in the fields with children on their backs to managing households and extended families, women shoulder all of the responsibilities.
अबको अवस्थामा मलामी पनि महिलाहरू जाने अवस्था भइरहेको छ किनकि बेरोजगारीको कारणले.
As women in villages like Tollo Satighar continue to carry the weight of the households, communities and development, their contribution remains largely unsupported by policy and resources. Unless sustainable employment opportunities are created within the country and women-led communities are backed with targeted programs, the unseen burden carried by women in these emptying villages will only continue to increase.
Nepal is becoming a chosen ground for numerous international events of late, none more than film festivals. The 7th edition of Nepal Cultural International Film Festival that concluded today in Kathmandu saw the screening of 85 films and documentaries from 39 different countries. Organized by Nepal Culture and Film Center, the festival had prizes and special mention recognition under various categories. Rhythm of Dammam by Indian filmmaker Jayan Cherian won the Best Film Award in the international category, while Indian duo of Shanti Mohan and Mukunda Murthy won Best International Director for See It. In the national short film category, Inar by Daniel Gadal was adjudged the best. More than 40 international filmmakers, jury members and guests participated in the two-day event. International news coming up next, but before that, a quick recap of the headlines. Nepal's president calls on Japanese investors to boost bilateral trade, says legal reforms and Lumbini development offer opportunities for investors. Spain opens residency path for undocumented migrants. Hundreds of Nepali youth struggle amid embassy passport delays. Authorities heighten screening at Nepal's border areas amid Nipah virus threat. Travelers screened at key borders to prevent spread. Election Commission to not shift poll centres despite empty villages. Seasonal migration leaves high-altitude districts vacant ahead of elections. Palestinians start entering Rafah border after 1.5 years. No goods to be allowed through in the deal part of the US ceasefire plan. And Nepal secures its first win in SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara. Defeats Bhutan 2-1 to record opening victory. A Ukrainian drone attack struck the Russian border region of Belgorod Oblast on Monday, killing 2 civilians and damaging residential buildings, according to local authorities. According to Belgorod Oblast Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, the overnight strike hit a private home in the city of Stary Oskol, igniting a fire that severely damaged the structure and caused part of it to collapse. Belgorod Oblast borders Ukraine's Kharkiv, Sumy and Luhansk regions. The region has seen frequent Ukrainian drone and missile incursions since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, with periodic civilian casualties reported by Russian officials. China has executed 4 members of the Bai family mafia, one of the notorious dynasties that ran scam centers in Myanmar. They were among 21 of the family's members and associates who were convicted of fraud, homicide, injury and other crimes by a court in Guangdong province. Last November, the court sentenced 5 of them to death, including the clan's patriarch, Bai Suo Cheng, who died of illness after his conviction. Last week, China executed 11 members of the Ming family mafia as part of its crackdown on scam operations in Southeast Asia that have entrapped thousands of Chinese victims. Japan says sediment containing rare earth elements have been retrieved from ocean depths of approximately 20,000 feet during a recent test mission. The sediment was collected from the seabed of the remote Pacific island of Minami Torishima by the drilling vessel Chikyu, operated by Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology. The mission, which began last month, is part of Japan's efforts to explore deep-sea resources and secure supplies of rare earth elements. It is said to be essential for modern electronics, renewable energy technologies and electric vehicles. Rare earths are a group of 17 metals critical for manufacturing magnets, batteries and other high-tech components. The Japanese government has emphasized the strategic importance of rare earth elements amid increasing global competition and supply chain concerns. A rare wave of rime ice has magically transformed the arid landscapes of North China's Inner Mongolia into a shimmering white wonderland, captivating visitors with a breathtaking winter spectacle. Recent cold fronts sweeping the Ehina banner of Alsa League brought a series of snowfalls to the sprawling populous Euphratica forest, coating countless branches in delicate rime ice. Spanning 30,000 hectares, these ancient desert woodlands rise from the frozen ground, their branches coated in crystal clear rime that glitters in the setting sun. Rime ice, formed only when frigid temperatures meet abundant moisture, is a rare sight in Ehina Banner, where the arid climate brings less than 40 millimeters of annual rainfall. The stunning, captivating scenery has drawn crowds of travelers to witness this elusive natural artwork. Time now for business updates, but after this short break.
Gold and silver prices have continued to fall after a dramatic reversal of a rally that had pushed precious metals to record highs. In Asia trade on Monday, spot gold prices fell more than 9% to $4,403 an ounce, while silver slumped by 15% to less than $72 an ounce. Prices had hit fresh records in January as investors parked money in so-called safe haven assets due to geopolitical uncertainties. Markets had also been worried about the independence of the U.S. Federal Reserve, but metals prices fell on Friday after President Donald Trump nominated Kevin Warsh as a former central bank governor to be its new chair. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi faces a crucial markets test in the final run-up to a snap election this weekend, where she is hoping a decisive victory will give her a mandate for expansionary fiscal policy. The finance ministry will auction $4.5 billion of 30-year government bonds on Thursday, 3 days before polls open. It's a tenor that has been hypersensitive to worries about a loosening of fiscal restraint, suffering a rout last month as investors balked at Takaichi's pledge to suspend the consumption tax on food. Auctions have been a particular flashpoint for investors, expressing concern about the state of Japan's finances, which are the worst in the developed world, with debt totaling 230% of GDP. In 4 of the past 5 30-year bond sales, yields spiked to fresh record highs either in the run-up to or immediately following the auction results. Americans are consuming more coffee than at any point in recent decades, but Starbucks is losing market share as competition in the U.S. coffee industry intensifies. Starbucks remains the largest coffee chain in the United States, operating nearly 17,000 stores nationwide and planning to open hundreds more. However, the company is facing increased competition from both established rivals and emerging brands, making it more difficult to regain customers lost in recent years. According to data from food industry consulting firm Technomic, Starbucks' share of spending at U.S. coffee shops declined in both 2024 and 2025. The company now holds 48% of the market, down from 52% in 2023. Additional competition comes from fast-growing drive-through chains such as Seven Brew, Scooters Coffee, and Dutch Bros. International brands are also entering the U.S. market, including Chinese chains Luckin Coffee and Mixu. South Korea's exports rose sharply in January, driven by a surge in semiconductor shipments amid strong global demand linked to artificial intelligence. Semiconductor prices increased by up to 8 times compared with a year earlier, according to industry data. Semiconductor exports reached $20.54 billion in January, more than double the amount recorded in the same month last year. Exports of related products also increased. Computer exports recorded their highest January level on record, while shipments of wireless communication devices rose for a third consecutive month. Overall exports reached $65.85 billion in January, the highest monthly total on record. South Korea recorded a trade surplus for the 12th consecutive month in January. China accelerated the smart transformation of its manufacturing sector in 2025, with robust growth in sales revenue from robot manufacturing and smart consumer devices, according to invoice data released by the State Taxation Administration. The data showed that the sales revenue of the intelligent equipment manufacturing industry surged 28.1% from the previous year. It also showed that steady progress was made last year in moving China's manufacturing sector toward higher-end production. The smart consumer device and robot manufacturing also recorded impressive year-on-year sales growth of 32.4% and 24% respectively, as the AI Plus initiative gained faster traction. Unveiled by a government work report in 2024, the AI Plus initiative aims to promote the extensive in-depth integration of AI across all industries throughout China's economy and society. Sales revenue in advanced manufacturing industries, including computer and communications equipment manufacturing, as well as instruments manufacturing, surged by 11.5% and 10.3% year-on-year, respectively.
Time now for sports update. Pakistan will take part in this month's Men's T20 World Cup but will not play its scheduled match against tournament co-hosts India. The sides are scheduled to play in Colombo, Sri Lanka, in accordance with an agreement signed last year, stating that the two countries will play at neutral venues whenever one of them hosts an ICC event. In a statement, the Pakistan government said it grants approval to their team's participation, but added Pakistan cricket team shall not take the field in the match scheduled on 15th of February 2026 against India. However, the International Cricket Council, which governs the sport, said Pakistan's stance was difficult to reconcile and called on the country's cricket chiefs to explore a mutually acceptable resolution. The India-Pakistan match is one of the most commercially valuable fixtures in world cricket, generating peak broadcast and advertising revenue. Estimates suggest the potential loss from the cancelled match alone could reach around $50 million if broadcasters and advertisers lose the marquee fixture. Athletes from around the world have begun arriving in Milan to settle into the Olympic Village ahead of the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Games. The multi-sport event is scheduled to be held from February 6th to 22nd. Officials said the early arrivals allow competitors to acclimatize to the local conditions and complete final preparations before the opening ceremonies. The Olympic Village, located in the heart of Milan, has been prepared to host thousands of athletes and team officials, providing accommodation, training facilities and medical services. Organizers said security measures are in place to ensure a safe and smooth arrival process. The Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Games will feature competitions across multiple venues in northern Italy, including both urban and mountain locations. Organizers emphasized that final preparations at the Olympic Village and surrounding venues are on schedule, with local authorities coordinating transportation, logistics and health protocols. Now the weather details, first from across Nepal and then the world. We are almost at the end of the bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's have a look at the top stories this hour. Nepal's president called on Japanese investors to boost bilateral trade, says legal reforms and Lumbini development offer opportunities for investors. Spain opens residency path for undocumented migrants. Hundreds of Nepali youth struggle amid embassy passport delays. Authorities heighten screening at Nepal's border areas amid Nipah virus threat. Travelers screened at key borders to prevent spread. Election Commission to not shift poll centres despite empty villages. Seasonal migration leaves high-altitude districts vacant ahead of elections. Palestinians start entering Rafah border after 1.5 years. No goods to be allowed through in the deal part of the US ceasefire plan. And Nepal secures its first win in SAF Under-19 Women's Football Championship in Pokhara, defeats Bhutan 2-1 to record opening victory. That is all for the moment here on NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and also get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thank you for staying with us. Good night.
South Asian leadership has to reflect back. Do we want to move individually, or is it possible to move individually, or is it possible for us to come together again like the original founders of SAARC did?
Has South Asia failed because of institutions or because of political will?
Now that the SAARC is not working, let's focus on BIMSTEC. But my argument is the very reason why UN has not been able to function its global role, the very reason why SAARC has not been able to function its regional role, unless you address the underlying root causes, how do you expect BIMSTEC to work any better? So it's just institutional proliferation, one more institution, good for people like us, diplomats, we have nice jobs and all that, but that's all it does. Ultimately, for the welfare of the people of the region, I don't expect it to do any better. So that is why we need to, South Asian leadership has to reflect back. Do we want to move individually, or is it possible to move individually, or is it possible for us to come together again like the original founders of SAARC did? That they realized that there was a essential sort of transformation that was essential, was to link regional security and common prosperity. That you needed this to come together to move forward in these two vital areas. There were differences even yesterday. But if you do away with the institution that is created to engage in dialogue,